Who they think they better than? Ain't no comparison to the so-called black or African American. You can drop the African, keep the American. When we say Aborigine, it make they world in. I'm going in the same dirt my ancestors buried in. I come from a god and a goddess, so what that make me? Not even Basquiat can trace me. Not even Van Gogh can paint me. The MC in me is the God MC, equals the God in me. I'm focused in, let my mind be free. You too blind to see. The Jews I give is real, it's been real. These ain't shots, they missiles. All you gonna hear is the whistle. Lyrically, this an execution. My verses start revolutions for my people seeking restitution. Since the beginning, fuck evolution. Or maybe my reality is all a dream. I put it together like I was sowing seams. So it seems this is that audio dopamine. Go against the regime, we put you where nobody can hear you scream. And sing you to meet your Elohim. My nigga, this is savage mode. It's something that you can't decode. It started with a spark and I'ma let it explode. I was given the cheat codes that'll let me dump and reload and go through them waves like a fucking torpedo. You dealt the cards of life, I just cut them diamonds with the ace of spades. Y'all scatter like roaches when they facing raid, or vampires when they facing blade. I'm trying to get next to Shireen like I'm getting played. You still stuck as a mental slave. You still stuck in that mental cage. While I'm making easy money, pipping holes in style. This my coming to age. Crowd roaring when I'm coming on stage. And when I'm done, they gonna be cheering my name. Drake Cobbs, and nah, I ain't quit my day job. I spit bars. I really rap on my day off. That's real shit. Just give you some tools you can build with. Aim high even if you still miss. Just keep going. It's a climb to the top. And I'ma keep flowing. Down Lake Shore, I'm Chicagoan. Yeah. You niggas is playing checkers, we playing chess. And nigga, this is checkmate. Dre be the big dog and you just a little bait. You out of Africa and we ain't got the same traits. I'm a God being and we ain't got the same fate. My granny died February 18th and I was born on the same date. The chosen one, the ancestors' chosen son. They gave me the golden gun. One shot, that's a hole in one. From the pyramid of the sun to Poverty Point. I don't think you niggas is getting the point. We still here. Who said they made the Aboriginals disappear? Your information's lagging in the rear. All you do is teach fear. We copper-colored with woolly hair. Am I speaking clear? So fuck the nonsense. When I rap, I touch your consciousness. From within is where you get your self-confidence. Let's bring it back to dominance. Ain't no confining us. Gonna bring that wild Indian out of us. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. We still here.
Welcome to the Cherise the Realist Show.
Peace and love to all the Aboriginal Indigenous Indians. Hey, y'all. It's good to see you all. I have a very exciting and lovely woman that I want to bring to this platform. I'm very excited to have a conversation with her. As we all know who Mama Collie is. And like I said, I'm not going to even hold y'all. Like, it's just no further ado, okay? I'm going to bring this lovely woman to the stage, and you know, we're going to deep dive into some things, and we're going to have some conversations. And I know there's some things she would like to discuss as well. So I'm very excited to have her. So let me get my screen together and bring her on up. Peace and love, Mama Collie.
Hey, peace to everyone. I see a couple of people in the chat that I know. Hey, peace to all of you. Yes. How's everything?
Hey, everything is good. You know, I'm happy to have you here, and We're going to, deep dive into some stuff, and hopefully, as time move on, I know it's only been about 5 or 6 minutes, people are beginning to pull up and come on in and, not miss out on such a lovely conversation that we're having. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Big Dog Filio G, of course, Copper Goddess. Hey, Michael Akamakhurst. So shout out to everybody. I'm happy to have you guys pulling up. Please like, share, subscribe to all your platforms, please, or your social medias. We would love to, engage and bring you all in and just, converse together. So as you all know, I love information. I love, having conversations. This is the segment that I'm doing now called One-on-One Fridays. And, every week my goal is to bring an intelligent mind on, and we have these conversations surrounding the state of who we are, why things are the way they are, and ultimately, how can we continue to build upon it and get somewhere in terms of progression and overall reprieve. So I'm very, very excited. Mama Collie, I mean, you can start wherever you like. If you want to talk about your group first, your project first, or if you would like to just discuss your book first, or we can just move along however way, the spirit kind of guides us.
Okay, well, let me introduce myself. I am an Indigenous American. Didn't always know that now.
Oh, sorry.
And I'm just a few weeks away from my 80th birthday. I've kind of done quite a bit of traveling around the world in my lifetime, and I have authored several books. I have ghostwritten several books, and brought a lot of artifacts with me, joining throughout the world. You can see some of them in the background. And yes, I'm open to any and all questions anyone wants to ask me. As I said, when I grew up in southeastern North Carolina. Well, actually, I grew up in Durham, but my people come from southeastern North Carolina. When I did some of the search for my ancestry, I found that not only was my father from a very, very prosperous family in the 1890s, but my mother was actually went to that first Indian school built by the state of North Carolina in southeast North Carolina, down there near the Lumbees. But my people came from the Kohari area. Now, Kohari, the Kohari Indians, they were classified as Black, until the early 1970s, when, they got their, quote, recognition from the U.S. government. And I believe just recently, the Lumbee also got their, quote, recognition. I don't know whether recognition is a good thing or not, because that puts you into that 14th Amendment slavery category, and you are a captured Indian. So many of us, actually, I tried to talk to the people in the Kohari tribe. They never did return my call. I left messages after message, but I did get to talk to the Lumbee people, and they were very open and welcoming. Years ago, I did actually join the Washita Nation when the Empress was still alive, and I still have my my Indigenous ID from the Washita. A thing mentioning now the Washita, I was looking up some information some time ago, and I found out, I believe, what the Empress found, which actually got her that land. And what it was the a Supreme Court decision. Her people took their case of actually owning the land down there that was supposedly ceded to the United States from France, which France didn't own, you know. But the Supreme Court, what was that, 1855, I believe it was. Yeah, they had actually, declared that 1 million square miles of the United States belonged to the Moors, or the Moors, Empress Verdiasi. She always called it the Moors, Muurs, and not the Moors, but it depends on how you see it, whatever. But it was declared that 18, I think it was 65, the Supreme Court decision said that, 1 million square miles of the United States land belonged to the Moors, or the Washita, or what Veridiasi, her people. And it was called, the land of the ancient ones. You see, in other words, going way back, way, so far back, probably after the land appeared again after the flood. And it was actually in our hands. And so that's the Supreme Court decision. And that means that I sat down. You know me, I'm not going to take nothing and not research it. And so I sat down and got the, square mileage of the states of the Southeast, from Maryland all the way down to Florida and over to, the Mississippi. And it still didn't come to 1 million square miles. And so I kept going up the Mississippi, down to Texas, Louisiana, and then all the way up to include the Illinois, Ohio, and let's see, what else? And Pennsylvania. And hey, and it did come to 1 million square miles. So this is our land all the way up over to the Mississippi, and including Texas, and including Louisiana. And they gave Empress Verdiasi only a few acres by comparison to what actually belongs to us. Okay? And so this is something that I want all of our young people to know. All of our, actually our pretendians, what do they call them? Pretendians. They need to know that too. This is the land of the ancient ones. And this is something we need to be standing up and declaring. But you got to declare it. We can't sit down and just stay on the internet talking to each other. When they at warp speed is trying to steal everything we got. Well, they've been doing that for what? 1,000 years?
Forever.
At least 500. And so we have to be standing up and declaring what belongs to us. Okay?
That's
now,
right.
And we have to begin to actually take care of ourselves. If you are not aware that the whole food industry is about to go down, what they are feeding us now is poison. And like I told you, Big Dog, he and I are on the Farmer's Call every Sunday afternoon. And because we've got to produce our own food. Now, I did have I still have it, a farm in Ghana, and I had a wonderful young farmer from Decatur who was over there taking care of it after I left and after my husband passed away.
Mhm.
And I don't know really, I can't say what happened to him, but he died. And this was just a few days before his 40th birthday. So he was a young man, and he was very, very strong, very, very, a real farmer. And that's what we need. We need our people to begin to put seeds in the ground. Even if you only have like a patio, you can grow some food out there. And even if you're just growing greens, or little salad little salad plants, baby spinach, baby all kinds of greens, that'll keep you going. You see, but we have to feed ourselves right now. And I know it was absolutely deliberate that they took us away from the earth, because once you leave your farm, it's deserted, they claim it. And that's what happened. We had over 2 million acres of farms in the 1920s. Might have been more than
millions of acres. Even in Mississippi alone, so-called Black folks owned upwards of 800,000 acres of that farmland, even in Mississippi, and most of it was usurped from different things that we can attest it to, maybe heirs property, and of course just people coming in the middle of other people's conflicts and sweeping land up right from under their feet. So this is a constant thing that has gone on and that our communities have obviously dealt with, and I found it so interesting that even in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, up until that 1960s kind of era, we had all of this land. And I'm thinking, well, wow, I guess a bunch of slaves just owned a bunch of land. But like it's kind of deeper than that, when the truth is it's our land. We are from it, we are of it. And I think that that's where the misconception comes in a lot. I think that when laws are created and things are written into history a certain way, things are written into law a certain way, and oftentimes I think written in ways that we don't understand, we find ourselves in the midst of being stolen from. And I think that's what kind of happened here. So I love that you're really talking about this land piece, because I do think that it's a big part of it. Because
we have to reclaim, and we can't reclaim it sitting on the internet talking to each other. We have to actually stand up and publicly declare, even if it's just putting something in the newspaper, claiming your true identity is absolutely necessary and you can do that by buying an ad in the newspaper and actually running it for 4 weeks. And anybody can do that. I mean, if you can buy some $400 or $500 tennis shoes, which some of our people stand in line outside of a shoe store to get the latest shoe costing $300, $400, $500. Now, if you can do that, you sure can put an ad in the paper saying that I am here. I did not disappear nowhere. I've been here, and this is my land.
So, Mama Collie, can I ask a question?
Claim the land of the ancient ones. The Washington actually spelled it. It was UA something. I should have prepared better. I didn't.
Okay.
I'll just start talking. You know what I mean? I've got so many things going on. Say what?
No, I wanted to ask you.
Cherise?
I wanted to ask Mama Collie, because you made a point about we can't continue to have these conversations via internet. What do you think that it's maybe? Do you think people are scared? Do you think people are scared of a lifestyle change? Do you think people are scared to stand up, especially people who are within the knowledge and of the information? Do you like, what do you think the issue is that we can't seem to move it past in internet space?
It's fear. No, I think that it's fear, scared that the boogeyman or the slave catchers are going to come in after us. Now I have to admit that we've got some evil people around us, and we are at the very end of the Piscean age. We have entered into the Aquarian age, but the remnants of the Piscean age are still here. Now, what's that sister's name? Out there, she was in Oregon, and she wrote the post-traumatic slave syndrome.
Joy DeGruy.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Actually, I was at that seminar where she first presented her paper. This was before she was a PhD. And I actually have the program and the flyer from that particular event. And that was in 1990 something. And so one day I'm going to learn how to use the share screen. I'll do it. I'll learn it. And be able to show you some of these older artifacts, and things that I have saved over the years. And the name of that particular conference was No More Time to Bide. And the artwork was done by a very close friend of mine. It was like a watch class. And we were falling through because we were not standing up to claim what's ours. Okay, if you're scared, then just put it in a newspaper with your indigenous name. It's best to use your slave name so you can claim it. But you can also claim your indigenous name by informing, not asking. We pass asking, letting them know who you are. Okay? They can't tell you who we are. We've been accepting that mess for the longest time. We got to stop that. We can't be letting them say who we are, and they're about to change it again. How many times has, let's say, Negro, let me see. Now, my, what was she? She was my mother's grandmother, so she was my great-grandmother. In the census, she was called mulatto, but she was a full-blooded Indian. But that was what they were calling them at that time in the mid-1800s. Okay, and then my grandmother was called mulatto, and my mother was colored, and my birth certificate said I was colored. Well, we also know that at that time when I was born, no, I wasn't born in 1945, they were calling us colored. When did black come in? And African American, I believed it. Because I was during that time when they were promoting Africa as the place where we came from. And then they had these beautiful, it was Anheuser-Busch had these beautiful posters where they promote us their beer and to indoctrinate us into accepting the name African American. And we are not African American. The majority of us are actually indigenous. We may have a little mixture in our blood. Yeah, there's no way it can not be possible here in America. So let's accept that. But even let's say that, okay, during the time that many Irish and British were coming over, they were melanated. They were brown skinned people. Because, see, though they kept records. Now, this one thing about the Europeans, they kept records. And when they brought people over, some of them, came over to fight the war, and some of them came as indentured servants, but then most of them, they did intermix with us. Some of them, they were same color. We didn't know any different. I mean, and then it was a while before those pale skins came over here. You know what I'm saying? And so a lot of us, we were indoctrinated into thinking that when they said somebody was from Europe, that they were white. No, they weren't. Not necessarily. And what was that? We've got that holiday, so-called holiday, where the Irish, St. Patrick's.
Yeah, St. Patrick's, yeah.
It's coming up March, I believe, 17th. Yeah. Most of the people who were being put out of Ireland at that time were shipped to Barbados and Jamaica and places like that, and they were brown-skinned people. Okay? So we got to get it out of our mind that, if somebody was from Europe, that they were pale-skinned. No. Not necessarily. And they can be in your genealogical line. You see? So you can find it if you want to dig. You can find where they came from and probably the description of them. Okay? And so, because they kept those records. Now, as far as shipping people from Africa to here, most that were coming from Angola and so forth, they went to Brazil. Most of them, and you can, and that was determined by the currents. I think Dane Calloway did a very good job of explaining that. He and his wife, Tunisia, did a very good job of explaining how those tides actually determine where the ships actually landed. And so, I mean, we've got so much information out there that we can find if we're not just sitting on the internet, talking to each other. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, white slavery. Now, I hope they don't think that they can come over here and start claiming reparations because of slavery. They were never really slaves. They were indentured servants, which means that after your time, 7 years usually, you got some land. Well, whose land was it? It was ours.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to bring this to your attention really quick before, since you're on this kind of topic, because I just want to read it a little bit and just see what you think. Because from my research, come to find out that a lot of the first slaves in America were white, and this idea of indentured servitude is also what they would consider a misnomer due to obviously the changes or rectifications of history that we know today, that they turn around and comb through history and say, hey, they weren't slaves. So I just want to read just read a little bit of it, and I kind of want to hear what you think. It's not long. It's this particular piece is probably just an excerpt from his book, Michael A. Hoffman II. He's a researcher of the history of white slavery and he has exposed, this says, has exposed the slavery of whites in America. It says up to one half of all the arrivals in the American colonies were white slaves, and they were America's first slaves. These whites were slaves for life, long before blacks ever were. This slavery was even hereditary. White children born to white slaves were enslaved too. Whites were auctioned on the block with children, sold and separated from their parents and wives, sold and separated from their husbands. Free black property owners strutted the streets of northern and southern American cities, while white slaves were worked to death in the sugar mills of Barbados and Jamaica and the plantations of Virginia. The establishment has created the misnomer of quote unquote indentured servitude to explain away and minimize the fact of white slavery. But bound whites in early America called themselves slaves. 9/10 of the white slavery in America was conducted without indentures of any kind, but according to the so-called custom of the country as it was known, which was lifetime slavery administered by the white slave merchants themselves. In George Sandy's Laws for Virginia, whites were enslaved, quote, forever. The service of whites bound to Berkeley's 100 was deemed perpetual. It says, study 17th century colonial America, sifting the documents, the jargon, and the statutes on both sides of the Atlantic, and one will discover that white slavery was a far more extensive operation than black enslavement. It is when we come to the 18th century that one begins to encounter more, quote, servitude on the basis of a contract of indenture. But even in that period, there was kidnapping of Anglo-Saxons into slavery as well as convict slavery. And we could just stop it right there. You know, I found these writings and these pieces, you know, very, very, to me, revolutionary in terms of information that I hadn't known before. And I think that this idea that we were slaves and that this was happening to us is really a cover-up of what was truly going on here in America that they don't talk about in history or in our school books, etc. You know, so I don't know, you know, kind of what you think about that, but I just wanted to kind of bring that to you. And just kind of, yeah, I would love for you too, because yeah,
Hoffman very likely was a Khazarian, and they like to muddy the waters. Now, it is known that the Aboriginal people were the first ones here to be enslaved, of the indigenous people. Okay? We were the first ones to be enslaved here. Why would they go run across and pick up some people off the streets in, say, the 1400s, 1500s, and even into the 1600s when there were people here? You know, they were in boats. They were not in ships. And they had to start from certain points in order to get either to the northern part of Turtle Island or to get into South America. It depends on where they started, because they had only currents that would take them there. Now, Mr. Hoffman, he just sounds like another one of those disinformation people. I don't know. I don't know his work. You know, but yes, the name slave came from the Slavs, who were the slaves in Europe. And they were the street urchins too. Let's not forget that.
absolutely.
Those people that had come through, you know, the Black Plague and everything, especially after the Moors left. They didn't even know how to conduct the aquifers, you know, in Spain, and they reverted back to, you know, no sewage, no lights, no water. I mean, because they put the Moors out, Spain and Portugal, you know, and as a result, they didn't know how to conduct those sophisticated infrastructure that the Moors had put in place. You see, and then there was the Black Plague, you know, and so many of them died. So whoever Mr. Hoffman is, I'd have to, well, you know,
Yeah, they're
the
upsetting him too because he doesn't
are,
claim that the Holocaust happened too. He does.
say what?
He's made claims that the Holocaust didn't happen. So you know, a
Oh,
lot of
well,
people.
that's for sure.
Yeah,
It did not.
yeah.
Yeah,
So you know, that's what I'm saying. So I don't see a white man saying white people were slaves and making that up. But you know, I understand. You
yeah,
know,
they were,
yeah.
but well, perhaps we don't know who's telling the truth. We're
Mm-hmm.
talking about the age of Pisces, and Pisces got two fish going in opposite directions. And so, you got this store going this way and this store going that way. So who knows? And we're actually, getting more information now because of the end of the age of Pisces and the going into the Aquarian age. All the lies will be dispelled, but they won't be dispelled right away. This is a gradual thing. And then we got folks in the so-called government, because we have no government right now. Those who are in so-called power right now, they are liquidating a bankrupt corporation. And we are not understanding that. And especially those Negroes up there in the Congress up there where you at. They have to be some of our worst enemies. And I am not afraid to say it. They get paid very well. They go in there with $100 in their account and come out of multimillionaires. Hakeem Jeffries. I heard a breakdown on how he was able to get his seat. And we have to remember Cynthia McKinney. Some of you who are younger may not even remember Cynthia McKinney. She refused to take money from the ADL, which is a Khazarian front group, and swear allegiance to the so-called Israel. She refused. So they got rid of her, made up all kind of lies to get rid of her. And it's true with any of our people, all of them that's sitting up there in them seats talking about they up here for us. They ain't up there for us. Everybody else comes before us, just like this DEI. Who was the main recipient of DEI? White women. Okay? And then came the Mexicans and
Then the LGBTQ.
gays, the LGBTQE plus, whatever, I don't know. And all of them were ahead of us. Yes. But when they say DEI, everybody thinks it's us. They keep us out of everything, including the USDA.
Yes.
And a big dog can tell you, how we were on this conference call, on Sundays talking about farming and how they are still, right to this day, trying to keep us out of the farming money. You see? And so I really, so we have to question everything. We have to question everything. But one thing that we must do is to claim who we are. And if you can buy a purse now, I don't even know what they cost. But they got, I was invited to a Gucci party. Ooh. Can you believe that?
Someone had a Gucci theme party?
Yeah. And
that's crazy.
I didn't even respond, because if they ever notice, that whatever I carry, right, with my grandson, he just brought some things from college. You know, these bags that got the college name on them. Well, that's what I'm using right now. You know, because I would rather spend money on producing some food, and I got some out there right now, greens. You know, I'd rather spend money on that than what am I going to do with a fancy purse? Just got somebody's name, and who the hell is Gucci? You know what I'm saying? Why would I think that's so
Exactly.
great? I remember when my children were coming up and they wanted, you know, some of these brand name jeans. I told them, look, I don't want to see nobody's name on your behind except yours. You know, and that's the way I've always been. I mean, why should we support somebody else? We got to learn. That's what I came up in. I was born in 1945.
Mm-hmm.
You see, we had our own communities. We had our own banks. We had our own savings and loan. We had our own insurance companies. You know, we had our own printers. We had our, you know, we had our own stores. And then at that time, we had farmers who would come into the city with fresh goods on the weekends. And so we could buy it directly from them. You know, and I remember when the Nation of Islam had this contract with, I think it was Chile. They were getting that fish from there and going door to door to selling fish. And my mama always bought from her own. That's what I came up with. And we need to go back to it. We got from our own hand. And you got to prepare for whatever's coming in because these folks, they ain't talking about taking care of us. Did you hear anybody say something about taking care of us? I don't know. I don't know who's going to take care of us. Many of you may not even know Dr. John Henry Clark from back in the day, our historian or elders. Know that. Know that for a fact. We do not have friends. Psalm 83. Everybody has come to this country to suck at our breast. Okay? Now, literally, because our women are going and our men been doing it, but our women getting on the internet with bags from fancy stores and talk about all these things there. But things? Can you eat them things? You know what I'm saying? And
Absolutely.
so I'm just being real. I'm
What we value. It's
real.
sad that that's what we value. Yeah. No, I
You
agree with
know,
you, Mama Collie. I mean, I never have been into those kinds of things. You know, I just always say, hey, like, as long as I got on a clean shirt and some clean pants, I'm good to go. You know, I never ever felt connected to that kind of stuff ever in my life. And that, I don't know, maybe that
materialism.
probably was the ancestors or something running through me, even as a young person. You know, none of that was important to me because I do think that we are distracted by name brands and
Materialism.
materialistic things, getting a Benz, stuff like that. You know, most black people when they get money, they go run and buy a Mercedes Benz. Like this is a fact. I think you know, and I think it's really interesting. And you know, I hope that we can grow and see ourselves more outside of those things and get back to the things that our ancestors wanted us to be doing and standing up and fighting for what we believe in, not being the number one consumers in the freaking country, buying up everything, but nothing coming back to us as a result of doing all that buying. So
And
yeah,
have you noticed that those countries that the U.S. military invades, they bring their people over here and put them in our community
yes,
to suck us up. That's what they
it's
do.
true.
And we can't even we can't get loans for the businesses.
Nope. Will put us through all
But
kinds of hoops and jumps.
we still will go and eat that nasty Chinese food. and it's nasty.
Read.
Look. I lived in San Francisco for
cat dog.
35 years. I had a business in the outer areas closer to the ocean. And it actually was on a street that was named after the indigenous people. I was on Terraville Street. There were so many, Chinese restaurants on that street. Okay, and I know because one of them in the next block he got shut down for killing seagulls and putting it in the food. I don't know what else they were doing, but I did hear that, and that was like, okay, we were on the corner, and across from there was a gym, and then the next door was a pretty fancy Chinese restaurant. Okay, and they were killing seagulls and putting them in the food. Now I don't know what these folks are doing, but I do not eat Chinese food because I know too much. And our people just suck it up. And I was hearing some people on our last farming call, or maybe it was the women's farming call, because I'm on 2 farming calls each week, one that is women and one that is everybody. And I do invite all of you. Philly can give y'all a link, anybody who wants it, to the farm call, even if you're just got some things growing on your patio or your fire escape. Yeah, you can claim urban farmer, but nevertheless, I'm just saying that these people come over here and take all our money because we go give it to them. And can't we paint our own fingernails? What is this? Now, I don't want to talk about people. Look at here.
Yeah, I learned a big lesson. Let's talk about it because literally, I went to get my nails done, and there an infection literally maybe 4 or 5 days after getting my nails done broke out on my finger here. Like I'm in the process of a suit right now with these folks, and literally it flared my finger up, and I didn't even know what was going on. I kept wondering why I couldn't lift things and why my hand was hurting so bad, and I had never experienced that before. And then when I went to the doctor, they were like, yeah, they said someone wasn't using the proper cleaning materials on your fingers, and that's probably where this infection began and started. So I've never been back. I will never, indulge in that again, because what I learned is that all they care about is your money. If they had the nerve to charge me to take the nails off, the nerve, and God. So I told myself I'll never ever again.
Why do our women
nice and bare? I'm fine.
Why do our women want these nails that come way out here and curve? What can they do? I mean, why would you want fingernails like that? I ain't talking about nobody.
I know what you're saying,
but I think it's crazy.
Real long, real. I don't know.
Curving.
Yes.
But
I wonder how they, always wonder
how we actually waste our money and give it to foreigners whose homes were invaded, and then they were brought over here to take our money. Every one of them that this United States went to war with them, they got all their people coming over here.
Yeah, and that explains the redlining in our communities and everything that was going on then, and how they were able to set up all of these Chinese restaurants. Because I guess from my understanding that it was the idea that white people or whatever so-called white people wouldn't allow them to set up restaurants and neighborhoods, in their
Not. Why
neighborhoods.
would they
So they
allow them in
redlined
their
us.
communities to
Mm-hmm.
take their money?
Out there to come here, and do it to us, and Mama Carly. So let me ask you. So, what do you think has changed from your time up until now? Where did that mindset shift from for us, by us, to consume, consume, consume? I mean, because I'm sure even in your time, women weren't wearing nails like that, and
Oh no,
none of that was going on. So, I
no,
mean,
and
I
all
kind
that
of
makeup because
right.
we were really beautiful.
Yep.
I
Right.
mean, I've never even worn lipstick in my life. I might have tried it. I think that when I first moved north, right after high school, I probably put on some lipstick, but I didn't get into it. It wasn't who I was, and I didn't have that kind of time. And especially, to put all that stuff on before I go out the house. No, I ain't got that kind of time, but let me respond to your question. What happened? Okay, I lived through it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we had our own hotels. Okay. I know that because it was right next to our own theater. Okay. And we put our little 5 cent and went to the movie to watch, Donald Duck and all of that, and a Western, which we now know that they substituted white boys for who we were and told our story in white mask.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we know that now. I have just recently seen a couple of things about the Buffalo Soldiers. Just recently, a
Mm-hmm.
couple of documentaries, and they were fighting on two fronts. They were fighting the so-called Native Americans and the war with the Spanish. At the same time, what's called the Gulla War or the Seminole War, whichever one you're talking about. You know, okay, we called it the Seminole War. They called it the Gullah War. I remember one time. Well, anyway, let me not get off the subject. I saw it happen. Okay, we were. I think it was that store at that time called Piggly Wiggly, and I think there's still some of them around. And it was just a few of the preachers talking about we can't go to the Piggly Wiggly store. Well, we didn't care. I mean, we all had gardens and we all had fruit trees. We already had them, and then the farmers, the local farmers would come in on the weekends and I remember when I was before we moved from the old house we lived in to a new house my brother built for my mother. He came in by horseback in the country, and his wagon was full of fresh food, and we bought from it. Even we got milk, fresh from the cow. And my mother would actually make her butter from that. My mother, she wanted to make her own butter. And it was real milk with all the butter fat in it.
Wow.
And so the preachers started talking about, well, we can't go to their stores. Well, that wasn't even on our minds. We were eating fine. But that became, the mantra. We got to go to
Mm-hmm.
their stores. We got to go to their schools. We got to, look. I went to the high school in Durham. It's called Hillside High School. I took, okay, let's look at the math. I took geometry, plane geometry, solid geometry, trigonometry, calculus, and all of that.
You're smart. Okay.
Okay, All of
Yes.
that. I took all of that in a black school, so-called black school. And they taught us everything that they knew. And they had learned a lot. Now, what we didn't have was our history. Okay? That wasn't available at that time. And by that time, we knew all the famous so-called Black people. Well, we called them Negroes then. We knew all of them. In our auditoriums, we had pictures of all of them around us. So we were surrounded by our own heroes. Okay, so when the preachers started talking about, well, we got to have, we got to go to their stores. If we went there now, sometimes on Saturday, we would walk there and look at the stores, do some window shopping. And I remember there was that, they called it Kresge or Crest store. I don't know. I remember they still had one in San Francisco, probably up until about 30 years. It's all been almost 30 years since I lived in San Francisco, but they did have a Kresge, Kresg, it was a 5 and 10 cent store at that time. Okay. And so we would go in there, and actually I had a little boyfriend, who bought me, I think he bought me 3 engagement rings out of there. And they probably cost $2 or $1. But he was from a, quote, rich family. And they were rich. They were rich, probably richer than most of the whites that lived there, because we had our own. We're collecting money from ourselves. It was circulating in our community. And so then all of a sudden, here come Martin Luther King and the bus boycott and all that kind of stuff, And so that was how all of that started disappearing. We thought that we had to go in and try on hats in those stores. What was that name of that store? I think it was called Baldwin's. And it was a fancy store. They had all these beautiful, window dressing and everything. And if some of the more wealthy of our community went in there, they couldn't try on the clothes. And they certainly couldn't put a hat on their head.
Okay.
And so I think it was more of the wealthier people who fell for this change. They want their children to sit next to the white children. Well, now they probably had better books than we had, but we had better professors. Our teachers wanted us to learn. And I just ran down all the math I took in high school. I'm talking about high school. And so I finished high school. It was a so-called all Negro high school. And so the first time I sat in a classroom with white people was in New Jersey, so-called whites. Honey, I thought they were the dumbest people that I had ever run into, because they didn't know nothing. And not only that, when I went to San Francisco State, and this was during the time when they were fighting for Black studies. That's when I was at San Francisco State, right? But see, I was in science. And so I would be sometimes the only so-called Negro or Black or whatever in the class at San Francisco State. But every year, every semester, I would take one Black studies class, so I wouldn't be the only one sitting in there, And I was discriminated against by the black professor. I'll never forget that. Black teacher, because she didn't know me, and I was buying books at her store. She had a black bookstore, was the only one, which was on what's the name of that? No, it wasn't Divisadero, Fillmore, on Fillmore Street. And those of us, who go back that far, they'll know who I'm talking about. It was called Marcus Books. Honey, that woman treated me like I was under a rock. She did, because she didn't know me. Most of the students were in Black Studies. I wasn't. I was in science because that's what I liked. That's what I was taught to be when I was in high school. And that's what I pursued. But I'll tell you now, honey, when I sat in that classroom with them or pale-skinned people, I thought that they were the dumbest people I had ever run into. But hey, what can I say? So this is how the change, and it was gradual. A few days ago, I was telling my granddaughter, she's 15 years old, I was telling her that how our music was so wonderful. And I had her pull up, because she helped me put a video together last year, because I still don't know how to do that stuff, And so, I was telling her, talking about moving from the Piscean age into the Aquarian age. And so I had her pull up the dawning of the age of Aquarius, 1969. That's when that came up. Do you see how far ahead we were seeing? We were visualizing the new day, the dawn. And what did they do? We've always generated new art. We are the creators. Everybody in the world follows us. But then they come over here and they've been indoctrinated into thinking that we the bottom of the barrel.
Yes.
When they the one following us. Every one of them. Honey, I remember the first time there was a copy business right down the street from me, and it was owned by Chinese. And they weren't the first generation Chinese. They had been here. And so I go in there and I hear something sound like rap. I said, "What is this?" It had that beat and everything. Chinese rap.
Baby.
Yeah. Hey, this is when I was in San Francisco, and I've been out of San Francisco for almost 30 years.
Is a whole nother. No, I want to go back to something. That's a whole nother. Yes, but I want to go back to something that you said about when you were in school there, and there was only you said there was only one type of Black Studies class, if you will. I'm perplexed a little bit because I recently graduated college last year, 2024, and this summer I will be starting a master's program. But that's neither here nor there. When initially a minute ago, when I first went away to school, I went away to school at Delaware State University. Delaware State has a very interesting history in itself. And what was interesting there was that there was only one Black history class, if you will. And it was called African American Literature. And it was actually taught, I was actually taught by Charles Drews, he was like his second or third grandson. So that was crazy, wild in itself that, I was taught by someone like that. He ended up passing, a couple of years back from what I ended up hearing. But they only had one course like that. I couldn't find any other courses that, significantly resonated with us at what we would call a Black university They had equestrian, they had NASA, aeronautics, they had all of these things. But how does a Black school only have one Black studies course, period? How does that happen? And
Well,
where does
they're
that
not
get lost
teaching
in
you that
translation?
now.
Yeah, I just find it
They're
interesting
not
that it's
teaching
the
that
same
anymore.
thing. Yeah. But you're calling this a Black university, but you're not teaching Black students about themselves. And like the only thing that they do want to
Well,
teach Black students about themselves is that they were slaves. And I find that
yeah, that's the only
pretty
thing.
ironic and pretty perplexing. And it's really weird, to be honest. I mean, I found that weird years ago. I mean, I would have put a bunch of, Black type of courses on my schedule, but literally African American lit was the only thing that was available there at that time. I can only speak to my experiences. I'm not sure how they've, whatever they've done now in more recent years, but I will say it was the same thing predicated in all these
HBCUs.
HBCUs, if you will. And it's
Mhm.
interesting to me like that, it's not set up to teach us about who we are, and I find that
Well,
very, very
no, why
weird.
should they do that? Why should they do that when you'll find out that they stole your land
Yep,
and that you are the original people? And not
that's
only
right.
are you the original people of the Americas, you're the original people of the entire earth. Now, just recently, I ran into some more information where it has been proven, but I saw many years ago going to the Fernbank Museum here in Atlanta, that, the continental shelf, Senegal and Georgia were one time together. Well, you can see that if you look at the shapes you see of the continents, you
Hmm.
know. But I did recently run into some information about how that splitting, has been shown literally. But are we being told? No, we're not. We're not even being told or being taught that there was one landmass that split.
Pangea.
And therefore, if you have, Pangea, and there are similar cultures, from one side to the other, but they've also qualified that belief that the culture of the Sea Islands here, the Gullah Geechee, is from the Senegalese. No, it's not. See,
Yeah,
the
please clear that
oldest
up.
continent emerged from the water was North of Turtle Island, and that's been shown. It was the first water. So Africa did not emerge. It's not the home. The home is Turtle Island.
The land of milk and honey,
And that
baby.
area, around Pennsylvania is the area that came up from the water first, and it's been proven. You see, and I believe that that is the reason why, when William Penn, I think that's his name, came over here, he claimed that land first because it was the oldest land. And they wanted to dominate that land. And, what's the guy's name? Ross Ben. I don't know if you've ever watched him.
No.
Brother Ross Ben,
Ross Ben.
brilliant,
I gotta put
brilliant
on
brother.
my
He's a Rasta.
put that on my docket.
Ross Ben. He has talked about that
RAUS.
area. Ross,
RAUSBEN.
R-A-S.
Oh, RAS. Okay, I just want
No,
to write his name down.
he's Rastafarian.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but he's a brilliant brother. And he has broken down, the metaphysics, and he's an astrologer too, and he has broken down the metaphysics of and the astrology and all of the history around that area. You see, And he's deep, honey. He done tore all that stuff up, including the fact that they killed the matriarch of the Lenape people in order to take over that land. And her name was Winona. Or I think really that is a not a name but a title, just like Khalifa. That's a title. Queen Khalifa of California, the California Caliphs.
Queen.
Okay, it's a title.
No, yeah, I'm just, I'm just letting you know that I'm following.
Okay, and so it's look, Turtle Island is the oldest. It's the oldest, and you can find it now. They're trying to hide it from us because they want it, but we got to stand up and take it. Now, my group. I'm the North Scale Institute since San Francisco, 1981. I think I actually put that, I created that institute, North Scale Institute. Now, the North Scale is actually the scale of Libra. There's a North Scale and a South Scale. Libra. Constellation. Okay, I see you looking. Libra, the constellation. Yeah. The North Scale means you've already paid all your dues. And the South Scale means you got dues to pay. So North Scale, because I knew even way back in the 80s that I'd already paid my dues. Still learning, because at that time I didn't even know I was indigenous because of the indoctrination. And it was only when I started looking for my mother, because I knew she went to school. She was born in 1900. And I'm the 13th child. Now, and so when I started looking for the school, because there were very few schools that they could even go to at that time, and that's when I found her in an Indian school. I was shocked because she never talked about it. They were taught not to talk about it. And that's the reason why so many of us got lost in our own family history, because they wouldn't talk about it. They wouldn't talk about it. The only thing that my mother ever said to me about our being indigenous was, she said to me, don't forget this name. Bristol Hall. That was my cousin, and he was an Indian. That's the only thing she ever said to me about being an Indian. But she said it wasn't she who was Indian, it was her cousin. But her cousin, they came from the same root, right? And so, so I was looking for the school she went to, and I found her in an Indian school, So what I've been doing, and like I said, I did get my first indigenous ID from the Washita when Empress Verdiasi was still alive. And that's a whole nother story, what happened there. And I'm very, very distraught of what happened to her. But, now, so what I've been doing is perpetrating and continuing to teach the younger people about the earth, because we have to understand that the earth is our mother. Where do we get food from? You cannot eat virtual anything, internet, anything. Okay? You cannot eat it. You got to come to grips with remaining with nature.
Yeah, we got to touch that grass sometimes.
Not
Mm-hmm.
sometimes.
All the time. But I'm just saying, in aspect of always being in a virtual reality, we need to be out there being one with our nature and with our home. There's a reason why we, and not to cut you off, Mama Collie, but there's a reason why we feel, I mean, especially me anyway, I can really speak for myself, and I can truly say that I feel so connected to America. I feel connected to my home. I feel connected to my city. I feel connected to all of that strongly. I feel connected to my roots. Like, I know that there's a spiritual thing going on inside of me that I've, like, even coming into this information, like, I've never felt before. I know that someone is, or somebody is reaching me and trying to reach me. And like, I'm telling you, literally, like, some nights be sleepless because it's like, oh my God, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? It's kind of like that, because I guess I get so worried that this information will go off on deaf ears, and it'll never get its rightful place the way it needs to be, and that the people can come back into the family fold as we once were before. And
I
I
think
just
we're
think,
going to be forced to.
yeah.
Those of us who begin to reach out now. And like I said, the North Scale Institute, which I created back in it was probably 1980 or 1981, because I had fled from Florida when they brought all those prisoners from Cuba. They called it the Mario boat lift. When Castro opened up his prisons and sent them all over there to Florida, I left and I went back to San Francisco because I had lived in San Francisco for a long time and finished college there, But I did create the North Scale Institute, good karma, okay? Now, around 2000, I created an organization called Genesis, and it's an acronym for Growing Energy and Nutrition for Environmental Stability and Investments in Our Societies. Now, it is a nonprofit organization, Genesis Youth Project, and we are going back to teaching, about the earth. And we want people to actually understand we are recruiting young people. Of course, some old people can come too because they don't know either. Just like I didn't know. I ain't trying to pretend that I knew everything because I'm still learning. I got books here that I'm reading, and videos. There are some good brothers on and sisters on the videos, on internet. Some of them are real good. I like video, but because I'm a science buff, but so Genesis, remember, it's an acronym: Growing Energy and Nutrition for Environmental Stability and Investments in Our Societies. That's where we got to go to preserve ourselves. Back in the day, when we first got here to Atlanta, we got here in 1998. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And my first grandson was born then, actually, and we acquired this land here. And, we began doing sweat lodges and lectures teaching about the earth. Well, we're continuing to do that. I got taken off for a few years when I had to run the whole show by myself after my husband passed, and just recently, one of my granddaughters stepped up and took over the herb business. It's called Herbaful, Herbaful, Herbaful. It's a herbal. We sell herbal products. Very good, all very good. Now she's taken over for me, and then another granddaughter is helping with getting this going. And so we're going to be offering even online, but we will be doing a whole lot in person here, as we did way back in the day. I did tell you that we worked with, or did I? I might have told you personally that we worked with the Genesis Project and took some Morehouse students to Haiti after that big earthquake. Okay, I think I told you that, did I? Maybe I did.
Yeah, we talked about so much. I'm not going to even lie, Mama Collie. So this writer came up.
Okay.
But we did talk about a whole lot.
Yeah, so we took them to Haiti, and actually, that's when we found out that Haiti is actually a United Nations headquarters. That's why they're trying to get rid of the folks. Well, let me tell you, you can't get rid of us. We are the salt of the earth. And they can do it. Look how long they've been trying to get rid of us. You know, we're still here. You know, and we got our own minds.
So, Mama
That's
Collie,
why I don't want these children to be.
Oh no, go ahead. Finish your statement, and then I want to ask you a question.
Well, go ahead and ask.
Okay. So, Mama Collie, in light of everything that's been going on with the Trump administration, we know that obviously there's been a lot of executive orders that he's put in place in the last 60 days. One being about birthright citizenship. Do you mind talking to that a little bit? And, you know, how do you feel about the way that, you know, birthright citizenship has been abused? And do you think that Trump is doing the right thing by kind of putting a cap on that and trying to minimize all of that coming into the land, getting pregnant, having your kids, and now everyone's an American citizen and things like that? I mean, have you been following that, or would you like to talk to a little bit of that?
Yes, okay. I have been following as closely as I can. Okay, because there's so much disinformation around that, because we got our own Negroes up there in Congress fighting everything that he's doing. Okay, now I ain't saying that Trump is our friend, you know, but a whole lot of stuff that he is doing is in our favor. Now, he did say that descendants of slaves are citizens. Now, when you say slaves, everybody think that we were the slaves and there weren't any other, okay? And that's pretty much what he has been promoting. Now, if we're 14th Amendment citizens, that means you're still a slave. And a lot of our people don't understand that. You know, if you say you are a citizen of the U.S. corporation, you're still a slave, okay? But nevertheless, he has declared that, and he's putting some of the so-called Native Americans out because they're not citizens. And they're not indigenous to this land. And I know a whole lot of these folks don't get mad at me, but get mad. I don't care. Look, I have lived a while. And I ain't going nowhere until the Great Spirit called me. You can't get to me. I am protected. Okay? I'm just speaking truth. That's all. I'm just speaking truth. Now, a lot of things, and in fact, I saw Farrakhan talking about that a few days, just on a little short. He was talking about how much of what Trump is doing is in our favor. In other words, saying the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And putting that birthright thing in place will get rid of a whole lot of people. Because, you know, the Chinese will come over here pregnant, stay here, drop the baby, and then because the baby is a citizen, then they could bring their whole family. They bring a whole, you know, I remember when Reagan, I was living in San Francisco then, when Reagan said, okay, well, if you've got, wait a minute, well, if you've got $1 million to invest here in America and you hire 11 people with a business when you come, then you can come here. Okay. Well, honey, them Chinese over there, especially in what do they call it now? It was called Formosa at that time, Taiwan. Okay.
Okay. Oh
Honey,
yeah. Okay.
plenty of money. They had plenty of money, honey. And they came over in droves. I saw it because they landed in San Francisco. And they started buying off those houses that the pale skinned European veterans had bought. They were built for them. And like I told you, I was living out close to the ocean. I wasn't in the downtown area, you know. And honey, they came over here with suitcases full of cash and bought up those houses, cash. And them, pale skinned working class people ain't never seen that kind of money. And their parents had bought those houses, or they took the money and they ran to the suburbs. Okay. And then the neighborhood that my business was in, it became a Chinese neighborhood almost overnight. Because Reagan opened the doors and let them in. And a lot of times what they did was they would go back to Taiwan to work, and they would leave their teenagers or college age students over here so that they could go to college here. You see, but those children sometimes, I know because we went into many of those houses. We had a plant nursery. And for the first time, many of them had land. They had great big backyards. All those houses had very big backyards and a little space in the front. And they had the opportunity for the first time in their lives to have a yard where they could make themselves a fancy garden. And we did a lot of that. Most of my life, I've been in land-related industry. In fact, a whole lot of the things that I write about or have written about are land-related. Even for other people I have written for, kind of a ghostwriter. And so, I'm just a land person. I was the last child my mama had. And it was at that time, there was the belief that if the youngest child put the seeds in the ground, the plants would grow just like the child. So that was like a psychological, it was a belief of the people. And if you believe that, that's what's going to happen. That's why I tell people, watch what you think, because that's will be what manifests. Okay. Now, I do want to mention that I've written a couple of books. I remember I told you.
Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to do that. This one is called Global Transformations. Oops. The Rise of Feminine Power and the Ascension of the Ethiopian King. Global Transformations. This is Queen Khalifa on the cover, and with the bear. Is this the coin? Is this? No, I don't think this is the image of Khalifa but Khalifa, who was the indigenous queen of California, she was a beauty, and she was very fierce. And in fact, they say that Wonder Woman character is patterned by her, because they were the Amazons that the people ran into when they came to California. Okay. And so this is about the rise of feminine power. We are in the matriarchy right now. And the ascension of the Ethiopian king. Well, the Ethiopian king is not a person. It is the rise of the new North Star, which is called Cephas. And there are a few videos that I've done about that, the astrological and the astronomical meanings of, this rise, this pole shift that we're going through. It's happening, the pole shift. So global transformations, the rise of feminine power, and the ascension of the Ethiopian king. Okay, that's one that I wrote. These I've done in the last 3 years, I believe. Okay, let me see. I'm trying to, here it is. American Indians searching for home, the diaspora road in Ghana. These are stories that I wrote when I was living in Ghana. Remember, I talked about having a farm, and I had a moringa farm in Ghana, and as I said, I had a brother from Decatur who was working that farm until he passed away last year. It's only a year ago when he passed away. And we have some people working the farm now. And my daughter is actually, she's the one who goes over now and then, to check on the farm there. We've got some local people taking care of it, but I talk about those so-called returnees. And this was I lived in Elmina, which are the castles. As a matter of fact, I was on the coast. My cottage was on the coast in a very tiny village called Itri. And I could see the Elmina castle and the Cape Coast castle from my back porch. And, I would sit there. I was just worn out. I was totally worn out from working so hard here, and I had to get away. And so that's the reason why I went to Ghana. But, I can't sit down, and especially then. And I began I had the farm that I was taking on, but I did a lot of writing because I had a whole lot of shadow work to do, soul searching to do. And so this is pretty much the stories written about living in Ghana. Okay. And really, I'd like to share this with people who are thinking about going over there. We got our own battles to fight, and they got theirs. Okay. All right. It ain't heaven. Of course, there's a whole lot less pressure if you got an income now. You got to have an income to go over there. Otherwise, you're going to starve to death, or they're going to put you in jail. You can't just go over there thinking that, oh, I'm home. Let me kiss the ground. No, you're going to have an income. And I just recently read, that there's a whole lot of jealousy amongst the natives there because of so many of our people actually going over there and living high on the hog. Well, if you've got Social Security, you're definitely going to live higher on the hog than most of them, because the majority of the people, even though they are rich in minerals, they're living on $2 a day. One story that I wrote here was about the Indians who are there as the middlemen between the indigenous people and the colonial rulers, and who are now replaced by their puppets in these African nations. And so, they are jealous because our people go over there, they build a big house, they live high on the hog, they can go to restaurants and eat, they lay out on the beach and all that. And the people are struggling with $2 a day, and that's just enough to eat. Feed their family, buy some water, So I read about really the life. I know I wrote about really the life there and my experiences. Because uh, the water, even now, is better now than it was when I lived there. But it's still not a lot of water and electricity there for the indigenous Ghanaians. So this one, American Indians searching for home. Because they're still thinking they still thinking that they're from Africa. But anyway, I just wanted to mention these two books that I wrote in the past 3 years. So
And do you
thank you
have
so much.
information on where they can find those books or order those books from you? Do you have a
Yeah, on
website?
Amazon. Both of them are
Okay,
available
perfect.
on. Yeah,
Yeah, so
both of them are
everyone, Amazon,
available. Hmm. Both
spend your
of them.
coins, support the queen. Thank you.
Oh yeah, Queen Khalifa. Yeah, she's the one. She gave me my name. I was living. It's really interesting. Almost every place that I lived in San Francisco and Monterey, I could see the ocean, the Pacific Ocean, from where I lived, and I didn't live in fancy places. You know what I mean? I wasn't by the ocean necessarily. I was real close to the ocean in San Francisco, my last place. But even when my first child was born in '69, I lived on the top of a hill, um, and in the ghetto, and I could see the ocean from there. So I've had a very close association with the Pacific Ocean. And then my second child, when we lived in Monterey, yeah, I could see Monterey Beach, and what what was the name? They called it Cannery Row at that time. Now I think it's a big aquarium there, but it was the old Cannery Road that the Bohemians used to hang out on. So I could see that from my home in Monterey. So I've had a very close connection with the oceans, both the Pacific Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean, in my lifetime. And I'm very happy to have had that association. Okay, so I just wanted to know if anybody had any questions, they want
Mhm.
to ask me, if there's anything that you want to know about me, my life, what my projects that I'm in, or any of that. Anybody
Okay,
got
I'm
any?
I'm gonna look through the chat to Mama Collie, and as they put them
Mhm.
in, I'll put them on the screen, and you can answer accordingly. Is that okay?
Oh, yeah, I see that somebody said, did
If people are
Africans
already
accept you as one of them? No. Don't let
oh,
nobody
oh,
fool you. No. They do not accept you as one of them. No, you're an American. Well, that means you got money and they're going to try to see how much of it they can get out of you. Okay? Now, I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about somebody living on $2 a day. You know?
mhm. She also had another
And they
question.
see you living high, and so they think you got something to give them. Now, another story that I wrote there was about how they mimic us. They mimic us. And a whole lot of them on the internet now talking about how much they hate us. But they mimic us. I had a knock them down, drag them out fight with an Indian in one of those stores uh, because, they were playing videos that were so negative. For all these people, standing around looking at these videos that were so ugly, you know, And so I went to the guy, the Indian manager, and I said, "Hey, look, you shouldn't be playing these here, because it's a bad thing for the people to even be seeing, Well, he said, "Well, I only hire junior college, junior school people, and they just don't know any better." I said, "Well, you know better." So he went and got the video and gave it to me. I broke it and gave it back to him, and of course they were all surprised that I would even speak to the guy like that, because as far as they're concerned, the Indians are above them. I'm talking about the East Indians, and pretty much what the colonizers did was to place the East Indians in the African countries that they had colonized, so there'd be a cushion between them and the indigenous people. Is there another question?
Yes, ma'am. It's on the screen. Did they believe in the slave trade or Pangea? I'm guessing she's referring to Africa.
No, they never heard of it.
The slave trade?
No.
Okay.
They don't know nothing because it wasn't true. As a matter of fact, now, there was a little village, my daughter told me about that because she went to that village, that said that along the coast, it said that they had been trading with the indigenous people in America for centuries. And I think the name of that village was Princess Town on the coast of Ghana, and they said they have been trading with the people over here for centuries. But they never knew anything. They never heard of any kind of slave thing. And a lot of those dungeons are made up. Some of them are real, but I know that one in Senegal ain't real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, literally, I was showing the people, I said, listen, this is all propaganda to get some money. Yeah, the slave dungeons were definitely propaganda for sure. It's crazy how they use that to play on our emotions and play with us in that way. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. So she Bassett has another question. She says, "Oh, okay, you see him, okay." Mm-hmm. She says, "Are they looking for American relatives in America?"
Oh, no, because they never thought that they had relatives here. No. Somebody wanted to know what do I think about foundational blacks? Honey, that's another name they done gave us.
So you don't like the FBA situation?
American Indian is one, but that's a misnomer as well. I kind of like what Dane Calloway is saying, Niji. I kind of like that, but it has to be used so that it catches on. But foundational blacks, I don't know what that means.
Okay.
But I do believe that every so-called black who comes here, and we're not going to get any reparations. Who believes that? We're not going to get anything until we stand up and declare it. They might give reparations to the so-called white slaves. That's what I think they would do. But they ain't giving us nothing. Mm-hmm. Let me see. Heard of the Congress?
Just one more question. Yeah, I'm going to put it up on the screen. It says, have you ever heard of the Congress for the New Urbanism? www.cnu.org. It is the United States tool to implement the 21st century version of the 1830 Indian Removal Act using legality.
I haven't heard of that, and I better write that down. It's cnu.org. Mm-hmm. Well, I wouldn't be surprised. They're still trying to get rid of us, but you know what? There's something called the sun. Y'all heard of the sun? SUN. We don't have to worry. We better stand up right now because they are working at warp speed because they know their time is limited. Because we got that sun out there cutting up. And those of us who have the melanin are going to be able to withstand the rays. In fact, it's in our favor. But we still better put some seeds in the ground so we can eat. Else you'll be eating them bugs they trying to give you.
Someone asked also, did you believe in the out of Africa theory?
Oh, that everything came out of Africa? No, I already addressed that.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if
said
you had addressed it or not.
Land to emerge from the primal waters was Turtle Island. And I also said that Brother Ross Ben has done a whole lot of investigation and reporting on that. Okay? And so, and that's the reason why William Penn went there to claim that land. That's my belief. That's what I think. Okay.
Does anyone else have any more questions they would like to put into the chat for Mama Collie? And yeah. Okay. Here go one.
I believe in out of
it says during the riots that happened in the early 1900s, were these all white people?
Yeah. Thank you for asking that.
Or were some of our own people involved also that was willing to team up with these white people? Yeah, she wasn't here in the beginning, so that's why she asked that question.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
right. Actually, I had not addressed that because the Wilmington riots, 1898. Okay, Wilmington, North Carolina, 1898. Our people were doing wonderful. Okay, they were prosperous. They had built beautiful homes. A lot of these homes that you think belong to white people, they belong to our people. One question I have to ask, how do you think that even Africans or white slaves could come over here and know how to grow cotton and tobacco when they had neither one in their land? They wouldn't know how to do it, and they wouldn't know how to grow rice or any of those crops. Actually, I believe rice is out of Africa. But look, it had to be the indigenous people to be doing those things because those were crops that belonged to us. They belong to America. Okay? Now, to address that particular all of those riots were jealous, pale-skinned people who came and found us living high on the hog, enjoying beautiful homes, pianos, beautiful dresses, churches, schools. We had those things. And they came and destroyed it, just like you hear about Tulsa. You don't hear about those hundreds and thousands. You hear about Rosewood. You don't hear a whole lot even about Wilmington or about Savannah. Or all of those places that we were already there and prospering. We were the ones who were prospering. Pretty much there were very few of us at that time who were working against us because we were the ones who had the wealth. And the thing about it, as far as North Carolina is concerned, at that very same time, 1898, my grandfather had a large plot of land not too far from there, because I told you my people came from southeast North Carolina. At that very same time, he had a large plot of land that he had divided in acres to give to each of his children, and he had 10 children. Okay? And he had several prosperous businesses at that time. He was a blacksmith, which means he made the tools, he shod the horses, and he created all the tools that the people needed to farm. Okay, and sharpened them too. And he had a mill. So, and my eldest sister, would give me all the details of it, because her first 10 years were spent there on my grandfather's farm. And she said that, my father had gone to Durham to go to school. They called it the Durham Normal School. And like I said, my mother had gone to an Indian school, but the Durham Normal School, which was college at that time, and okay, when he went back to the country, he didn't want to stay there because, the big city, he wanted to be in the big city. And my grandfather bought him a car and also put electricity. His home was the only electricity in the whole county. My older sister told me that there was a Delco battery. They had built a great big Delco battery. They had put it in a hole and connected it to electric wires inside the house that my grandfather built for my dad. And, my dad was his youngest child. So he wanted him to stay there, but my dad wanted to go to the city. He had already been educated in, Durham, and he wanted to go back to Durham to live, and he did, and he had his own business there. So basically, it was the poor white urchins, from the streets of Europe, the pale skins who came over here in the late 1900s, and who were jealous of our accomplishments and what we had. They were the ones at that time. Now, that is not true now, because we got what a lot of people call the dirty Moors, who are working against us, and a whole lot of them we think are our Congress people. We think they ain't working for you. They're working for everybody else. They ain't working for you. Okay, so just be aware. And there's one young one out of Texas now. She's always looking for a camera to get on television. Loudmouth, I call her. But I shouldn't be that way. Maybe when somebody is able to sit her down and teach her something, that we can pull some of them over, because a lot of them are miseducated. I know they don't know. Yeah.
That's your next
question. Who to be called if not an Indian? Well, I told you that I call myself an American Indian, but I use the term Niji from time to time because I think that's a good word. Dane Calloway, he researched and found out, and I think it's like, it's another thing that we can call ourselves. Okay, because somebody asked about foundational Black. I told you I don't know who that is, and there's so many names that they make up for us, and then our detractors also make up names and put them out there, But I like Niji. I like that. Okay, is there anything else?
Yeah, you got a few more. This is from Christopher Creer. Would you like me to read it for you, or you got it?
Okay, it's ushering. Oh, Christopher. Hi, Chris. Yeah. Hey, Chris. Hey, he and I agree on a whole lot of things on the farm call. Yeah, bruh has been at the forefront of, claiming what's ours. Okay. Okay, do you think it's a good idea for Aboriginal American Indian to engage in diplomats? Yeah, for ourselves. And like on that farm call, I keep saying, hey, we gotta organize ourselves under one umbrella. Even we all have our own tribes. Okay, I'm aware of that. I got my own tribe. I named my tribe after the area where my people are from in North Carolina. And I use the indigenous name, the Algonquin language, okay? And the Anishinaabe Kohari tribe. That's who my tribe, but there are many. And you can find that information. Just go to where your great great grandmother, was, and you'll find out that many times they were named after the closest river. And so you can actually find and create your own or recreate your own tribe and tell them. They trying to tell you who you are. You tell them who you are. Stand up. Yeah, stand up. I just remember the old gospel song. Stand up for Jesus. Mm-hmm. We're soldiers of the cross.
Mm-hmm. If anyone doesn't have anything else, I don't want to hold Mama Collie too long, So if you all,
I got time. So if
you got time, great.
If you have time, I know you got to go pick up your baby.
Oh yeah. Oh no, I've already taken care of that. She's in here. Oh yeah. I did that. Yeah, it's Friday. And enough indoctrination for today. Come on home. So anywho, yeah, if you guys come on, you could keep asking her questions. That would be great. I don't know, Bad Saint. I don't know. Is this comment that you made, is that towards Mama Collie or is that towards someone else in the chat? I just want to make sure. I don't want to put it on the screen and you weren't talking to her. Yeah, because I know they in here talking about what is your thoughts on the Democratic what is she, y'all? Representative Jasmine Crockett?
I told you, I think I already mentioned her. She's always looking for a camera. I just mentioned her. I didn't call her name.
Oh, okay.
She always looking for a camera. She need to go to school. Well, not school because they ain't teaching you nothing. She needs to learn. She needs to get some books. She needs to sit on some of these channels like us and listen to what our people are talking about. But hey, she getting paid. Okay. I told you that all of them that are sitting here are getting paid. And Farrakhan talked about it. He just talked about it. It was a short I saw a couple of days ago. Farrakhan talking about the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And a lot of what Trump is doing is in our favors, but we really got to stand up. And I know a lot of these sisters going to be mad, because they think that these women who are in Congress are there for us. Have y'all seen that clone that they're putting out there as what's it? Maxine Waters? I saw her a couple of days. That was yesterday. Honey, she's straight up clone.
All right now, Mama Collie.
I first noticed it last year when she was standing behind Nancy Pelosi. You don't see Nancy Pelosi anymore. Yesterday, when I saw Jasmine Crockett, she was standing there, and she's straight up clone. Okay, now I don't know if the clone is there because she's scared to be somewhere in public. I don't know, but you can tell real living people. You can tell the difference in living people. Mm-hmm. Let's see. I ain't gonna lie, it's hard to believe she ain't. Would you read that for me?
Yes, ma'am. She says, I ain't gonna lie. It's hard to believe she ain't know what schools her mom went to. Even if she ain't know she was Indian, I would think she would have known that.
But how would I know? I was indoctrinated in the same way that all of us, how would I know that? We went to these schools. Sharice just said that she went to HBCU, and they had one class in African. Well, no, it was American history or
African
African history.
American lit. Yep, that
Uh-huh.
was it.
Now, bad saint, I'm sorry to say, sweetheart, but you need to know. Now, you're from another generation, maybe. I'm almost 80 years old. I'm a few weeks away from my 80th birthday. I came up in another place. Okay, it was another time. So if you just got on here, maybe you didn't hear me, or maybe you're trying to stir up some controversy. I don't care. I found my mother in an Indian school when I started looking to try to find out what school she went to, because I didn't know. They didn't talk about those things. One of the ladies on our Indian school, our women's farm group, she was talking the other night about how the women in her family, never talked about anything that we as women should be discussing with the next generation. And
Mm.
she's just in her 50s, you know?
Now,
Okay.
here we go.
Any
It
more
says, does
questions?
absolutely, they keeping them coming. It says, does Mama Kali have any information on the Gullah and Geechee? Are they Indian or mixed with African?
Well, okay. I have a map that was put out by National Geographic some years ago. I keep maps. I love maps. And the Gullah in 1492, the Gullah people were called Gulla at that time. Okay. Now, just recently, I was hearing about a documentary that was talking about the Seminole Wars, or the Geechee Wars. It depends on who talks about it. The Geechee Wars or the Gullah Wars. And they were saying that at that time, this was a documentary that I saw. They were saying that at that time, the Gullah people were not mixed with Africans. But I also said earlier that, the land masses, the plates, the geological plates put Senegal and Georgia together. They're from the same plate, the geological plate. And I learned that long time ago, by going to the fair, what is it called? That museum out there on Emory campus. Is it called Fair? No, what is it called? I can't remember the name of it. It's Fair something, but it's a museum out in Atlanta on the Emory campus. Okay, so this is what I hear is that the Gullah, and I told you I have a map in 1419 that says that the Gullah were there as Gullah. They were known as Gullah, and that there was a geological plate that split many, 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 many years ago. I mean, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of years. We don't know. But the geological plates were together. So how they became separate, I don't know. I'm surprised nobody asks about the Hebrew Israelites. Nobody has that Oh, 5K dividend funds proposed by Doge is a part of NESARA. Do you guys know about NESARA?
Somebody, my girl do. My sister
Huh?
Copper Goddess.
Oh, do you? Oh, you asked about
Yeah,
NESARA.
she's asking, yeah, what are your thoughts on the golden age of America? And do you believe the proposed 5K dividend funds is NESARA related?
There are many, what I would call evidence that NESARA is slowly being introduced. I can't say it's true, but there are signs. Okay, NESARA is National Economic Security and Reformation Act, which was signed into law during the Clinton administration. It was the result of the Farm Bill. Now, how it got started, and this was before the Black Farmers Farm Bill. I have heard from some people that the Black Farmers Farm Bill, the farm suit came before NESARA, but this lawsuit that created NESARA came in around, well, it was signed by Clinton, but this lawsuit started with a few of the retired military who came back home and found that their parents' farms and ranches had been confiscated by the banks, illegal banks, farm banks that were created by the Bushes. Okay. And so when they found out that many of their people, these are retired generals and admirals, who found out that America, they'd been fighting for red, white, blue, apple pie, and picket fence. Wasn't true. Okay, they found it out. These are the pale folks folk. And so they decided that they were going to end this fight or this deception. And so they were able to win the case in the courts, and then to get the bill passed in Congress. Do you know how many people are eligible to actually sign that bill? 14. All of the other Congress people were had a title of nobility, which is against the original 13th Amendment. The one you've been taught about ain't the original one. The original 13th Amendment said that no persons who have a title of nobility can serve in the Congress. So if you are a lawyer and you took the bar, then you're not eligible to be in Congress. Okay, and so this was hidden, but it was found in a rural library somewhere, I think, in Virginia. So all those guys sitting up there making rules and statutes, and they're not laws, they're statutes. Against you, they're not even qualified to be there. So getting back to NESARA, there were 14 people who were eligible to sign this bill, but everybody had to keep their mouths shut. So they, under the Delta Force, entered into the White House and put a gun to what's the guy's name, Clinton's head, and forced him to sign the NESARA bill. Okay, and it was supposed to be implemented on September 11, 2001. So tell me what happened then.
The biggest, one of the most awful
that was Cheney
jobs that ever occurred.
That was Cheney and Bush Sr. While Baby Bush was down there reading a book upside down to little black children they had them chanting. They had our own babies chanting, blow it up, turn it down, tear it down. Our babies. Why our babies? Because we got the power. They know who got the power. That's why they keep you down. Okay. Now, as far as the 5K dividend, let's see.
Okay, let me go back. Oh, yeah, you can still keep asking.
Now, let me tell you what the big mouth congresswoman said. She said, what is $5,000 going to do? Well, it'll do a lot for me, I'll tell you that.
Come on, Mama Collie, please.
She said, what?
This lady really...
the $5,000.
Jasmine Parker shit. I just can't stand her. I'm sorry. She frustrates me. Jasmine Parker shit. I don't like her. No.
Well,
but go ahead. I mean, I'm sorry.
She's getting paid.
And then she's acting super ratchet and ghetto. I'm like, okay, you're in office and then you're literally talking about F off and you're cursing like that, girl. What? No, I can't. But yeah, the idea that, because we spoke about this, Mama Collie, and I'm gonna let you answer, of course. But we spoke about this when I went on the panel for Anton Daniels. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him or not, but they had this conversation around, her basically, well, we all had it around her basically trying to make it seem like $5,000 wasn't shit. When we know that a lot of people could use $5,000, when we know a lot of people don't even have $1,000 in their savings right now. So I think that any money that could be recuperated and given back to the people, that needs to happen. And it's up to 5K. I think that for her to even say, oh, that's a lie, Trump's lying, he's not going to be able to do that. No, what's happening is that all of your fraud, all of your theft that the Democratic Party has been a part of is now being exposed and it's over and done with. And you all are upset. Yeah. And she's really, and it's really weird. You know what I mean? It's sad. Like people are super puppets. Those folks, especially people like her. I'm like, girl, you are not from the hood. I don't know why you putting this on like you are. You need to cut it out all the way. For her to even say that 5K wasn't going to do anything for anybody it was slanderous and it was really outrageous because I feel like that money will help a lot of people. It really will. It just is what it is.
If you about to be put out of your apartment or your please, you know what I mean? And she said, I better not just respond to that. She said, if you don't have a job, well, it's a stopgap. Sometimes we need a stopgap. We want jobs, or we can take that little $5,000 and start a small business. People think you got to have a place somewhere in an office with big windows to start a business. No, you don't. All you need to do, and I shouldn't say it like that because it's not just that easy, but provide something that the people in the neighborhood need and help them to save a few pennies. If you can find out where you go and get it, wholesale, go there. Provide something. Start your own business. Start small. Don't be afraid. Don't be too proud to start small. That's what I've always done. Start small.
Yeah. And I think most people are scared to start from somewhere. I think that even the fear itself of getting started is a big problem in our community more specifically, because I always tell people that, we can have these internet conversations and I love them and I love the way that we engage. And I think that it is healthy in terms of information and receiving that information. But at the same token, we can't be scared to stand up in a political way. I think that the politics of it all, I think, in my opinion, people are really afraid to address it head on. And I think that it's a real hindrance to what we're trying to do, because I tell people all the time, like, We don't want to spend another 10 years on YouTube, you know, uncovering new information. And shout out to everybody and all their information. I'm talking about everybody that's in the paradigm, you know, whether we had our differences or not. You know, the information has catapulted a new way of thinking, and I think also has made us feel a little bit better about ourselves, and in a
Right.
context of, you know, understanding that our history is not predicated on the slave narrative. Our history is
Right.
not solely predicated on being at the bottom of a slave boat and being drug over here and getting your ass kicked and all of these different things. You know what I mean? It's a beautiful thing to know this. You know, I just think that now we have to move forward and challenge these people who teach our history, who've put this propaganda in books and made this a national, worldwide story that is super falsified. And I think that we, you know, we have to get to a place where we're not scared to come together as a conglomerate and move forward in the way that we need to move
Right.
forward. And I think that that's been my biggest issue with the whole community. I don't care
Yeah.
who it is. That's been my biggest issue, is us not being able to come together and say, you know what, there's a misconception in this history and you all need to tell the truth about it. And we ain't buying shit, doing shit, nothing until it gets straightened out. And that's how it
Well,
needs to be.
yes. And let me add on to that. I started talking about Joyce DeGruer. Joy
Hmm.
DeGruer. Okay. I just saw her just a few days ago. I told you about, you know, being at that original conference, but
Hmm.
I saw her in front of a white audience at some school, and she asked the question, how has racism affected uh, Black people here in America? And they said, well, you know, the known, you know, the cops, the redlining, you know, the jobs, you know, so forth and so on. In other words, racism affects us all around. And then she asks a question, how has Black racism, which they accuse us of being racist, how has Black racism affected white people? Crickets. Because there's no way we can't affect them. They're our racism against them, it doesn't affect them.
So
They're
what do you
still
think
the
about
ones
Black
that
people who think that Black people can be racist? What do you think about
I,
that?
well, something wrong. They don't understand what power is and what power produces. You know, our
Mhm.
people, how can we be racist? We are not in power to affect them, which they admitted, you know, by not saying anything. And she put the question directly to a white audience. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yep,
And
hold on. I know.
so there was a question about the Black, or a comment about the Israelites being mixed with Moors. I think
Yes,
I addressed something.
I can pull
Uh,
it back up for
the
you if you
Moors are
like.
mixed with us, you know? In fact, I addressed the fact that the Moors, which we call the Moors with Verdiasi, you know, we are that. You know, what's the separation between the Moors and us? I know there's some dirty Moors, and we can call them. We've been calling them out. Those who so-called are on in Congress right now, I call them dirty, modern dirty Moors. You know, but historically, you know that the Moors have, there was a group, they called them the Zionists, and there's a very famous picture that showed the Zionists at a conference there somewhere around the time of Noble Jew Ali. You know, and they are still here, living in gated communities, members of the Boule, you know, and the Divine Nine, you know, but
Yeah, all complicit.
we're mixed with them, because when they came in, a lot of them, I got this book here, The History of the American Indians. I don't know whether you guys know that book. you know, and they were always mixing with us. We think that the conquistadors were white. They weren't. They were the melanated people, the Moors and the Sephardic Jews that had built up Spain and Portugal and built all of those fine places and modernized that area from the end of the 7th century until they were kicked out of Spain and Portugal in 1492. So we've always been Moors with them. I mean, mixed with them. But our color didn't change because they were the same color. Okay? All right. What is this?
It says, Mama Collie, do you think each household nation can confederate, keep their autonomy, and act in our collective shared interests locally, nationally, and internationally? Charity starts at home.
If we wasn't so scared. And another thing that Joy DeGruy says is the reason why, the problem is that white people are afraid of us. And that's absolutely true. They're scared of you. But you scared of them.
The same way. And I mean, you're right. Yeah. It's a
I think that yes, we can see. So we already have our own, tribe. Okay, we can create confederations. I have a emblem behind me. It's the Confederation of Mound Builders. I have that, totem. Confederation of Mound Builders. What is that? It was the Moors who are Moors, which Empress Verdiazzi, the ancient ones, the mound builders. And if y'all don't know about mounds, you better start. You better start reading and visiting, because if you're anywhere from the Mississippi all the way up to the Great Lakes and all the way over to, I know they got a whole lot of them here in, I live between 3 right here in Atlanta area, and I hear that there is one, in the Cascade National Park. I haven't gone there yet, but we're surrounded by mounds, the mound builders. We're ancient people. We are the original ancient people after the flood, after the land actually rose from the waters. What is that, sweetheart?
So when you're bringing up mounds right now, growing up in Washington, D.C., it's a lot of history that, especially indigenous history, that we often don't know of, or we don't really digest it as indigenous history. We don't ingest it as, or digest it rather, as our history. Now, I went to this elementary school as a child, this middle school. It was an educational center from ages from kindergarten to 8th grade. Now, I lived at the top of one hill, which I believe is a mound as well. But when you go down the hill and then go back up, this school sits at the top. And hold up, and I kept looking at it, and it's right on Benning Road. And I wish I could get a bigger picture of it. But I kept.
Very well have been built on top of a mound.
Absolutely. And I kept looking at it and I kept wondering, I'm like, yo, that's got to be what it is. And not only that, see, what they used to tell us about Fletcher Johnson was that it was a graveyard. So yes, that is some of the history too.
Yeah.
That there was that it was a graveyard, and that it eventually, they removed all the bodies and put the school on it. But I mean, I'm trying to get a better view of it. I don't like these pictures they have, but as you can see how it looks, the way it kind of goes upward, I'm like, whoa, I just, sometimes you just have no clue. And, it's like, wow, like we're really sitting in the middle of a lot of history when it comes down to like DC, this area in particular. And, knowing that, not only they said it was a cemetery that our folks were buried in, that they removed those bodies.
Well,
and some people they never removed them.
They weren't supposed to build on a cemetery. So even if they say it was a cemetery, it had to be a mound. Looked like a mound to me.
It does.
I see that.
Hold on.
Nonya Bidness is saying that there's a schism between us. Yeah, great big one. And it's deliberate and coming out of the HBCUs. Sorry to say, y'all, because it's they be well, not only the HBCUs, but they need to be engaged. A whole lot of them started out as Indian schools, even the one in Hampton. I know that a lot of the HBCUs started out as Indian schools. Okay.
Yeah. And every time I kept feeling like, what is up with this school? Like, why is it on top of this hill this way? And we used to just think it was a hill, but it's like, no, it's much deeper than that. It's like the history of that whole school will go, I'm gonna show some videos on it soon, but there is some deep history with that graveyard, if you will. I mean, like I said, we were children, so that's just what they used to say to us, that used to be a graveyard, they gonna come get you, whatever, used to be a whole bunch of speculation around it. But I'm like, the only sense that it makes is that it's a mound. And like even that whole Benning Road area, maybe some type of construction went on to where that was separated, because I'm sure, I mean, it's huge. I mean, even when you go, like, you have to go up the hill to get into the school building, and it, like, on the back of it is huge too. Like, I mean, huge. So I think that we miss out on learning these things, because they're doing a good job of trying to keep us indoctrinated and keep us away from our land, keep us away from our home. Because I'm like, what about all these DC people who've been here? And it wasn't called Chocolate City for no reason.
Right.
Our people are buried.
Well, okay, now here's another thing. A lot of our people who had those bureaucratic jobs in DC are going to lose them. We know that.
Oh, I know. Yes, ma'am. Oh, yeah. They coming down hard with the rich, baby.
I don't know what's going to happen to DC.
Either.
But it was it should never have been moved from Pennsylvania, Philadelphia. DC was created for the invaders. Actually, it was first called, the area was called Rome. And it was given it was given to the new republic by the Vatican. You see,
they got a lot of involvement.
And so, I mean, because by the way, that makes me, that the so-called Pope is deathly ill. He done probably died already, and they're waiting. The Ides of March is coming up. Have you ever heard of the Ides of March?
No.
Probably another thing they didn't teach us. Like when I grew up, we learned a whole lot of stuff y'all ain't learning no more. Okay? The Ides of March was the time when Julius Caesar was assassinated. You see, and so it's celebrated by the people who know on the 15th of March. It's called the Ides of March. Okay? Well, I think, and this year, let's see, is it the 15th or the 14th? We're going to have that blood moon coming over. It's an eclipse over Europe. Let me see. What is it? Yeah. It's the eclipse, a lunar eclipse on in America. It's on the 14th, and looky here, baby. I'm sure that's when they're going to announce that the Pope done died. You know, because they do things like that. They wait for specific times, and you know the news is very bad every day, but it will signal the end of the Roman Empire. Because Rome is dead. And like I told you, DC was called Rome at one time.
Yes, it was. The Georgetown area.
You know, and so
what we now know is Georgetown.
That lunar eclipse is coming up. That lunar eclipse is coming up on the 14th. And it's going to darken Europe. Now, you know, we had these lunar eclipses that made an X across the United States, and then that other solar eclipse, there was solar eclipse that made the X, and then another eclipse came through, and it made that Hebrew alphabet, Alpha, which is the Alpha and the Omega. You know, well, it certainly did signal the end of America. But honey, you know that lunar eclipse coming over Europe. I believe. I don't have any information, and I haven't heard anybody say. But I thought about it. I think it was yesterday. I said, "Oh, that's the Ides of March," you know. And so that was when Julius Caesar was assassinated. Okay. Of Rome, the early Roman Empire. Well, see, this eclipse is signaling the end of the Roman Empire, of which its last stand is here in America. Okay?
Yes, Mama Collie. Ooh, cooking with hot grease, baby. Ooh.
Yeah, I got some coconut water in my wine glass.
Oh, come on. Okay. Shoot, cooking with hot grease. Does anyone else have questions for Mama Collie? Peace to the chat. Let me just take a second to shout the chat out. I'm sorry, because me and Mama Collie have really been engaging, and I've really been enjoying it. And I should have been starring these as I go. OTK told me about that. I needed to be starring the comments. I ain't done nothing. But I'm going to try to go back as far as I can to say what's up to everybody real quick, you know, and then we're going to get back into what we're talking about because, you know, I'm really honored to have you on, Mama Collie, as I said before. And you know, this is what this is about. You know, we need our elders to continue to do their best to spread the truth and to give us their knowledge and their wisdom, because I know we've been robbed of a lot of this. And, you know, like the way a lot of us have come into it, we've come into it late in our lives, or what people would consider late in our lives. And because this is not something that we grew up knowing and understanding. You know, we grew up hearing the whispers about having Indians in our family, and you know, oh, you know, that, you know, she was an Indian, blah blah. Like I had an aunt, my aunt Virginia. It's like it's crazy because my grandmother's middle name is Virginia. Like her middle name is Virginia. It's very interesting to me, actually. And you know, Aunt Virginia had 2 long ponytails and was in her casket that way. Was like they buried her like that. But they said, you know, she would have known most of the information, and I can attest to what you said when you said that they didn't talk about it. They did not.
They didn't talk about it
because even she didn't. And I knew, like, I don't know how Uncle John knew the tea, you know, about who we were. I don't know how he knew. But, you know, I never heard him use African in any context. He always said, no, we're Indian. And he always let me know that. I just never, you know, I used to be like, crazy. What are you talking about, Uncle John, around here? You know, he was real strong, and he used to wear he used to dress like a cowboy, in my opinion. But he never wore a shirt, never. Except for when it was cold outside. You know, like he really had that interesting kind of style, you know, like real country cowboy kind of style. It's very interesting to me, and like now when I think about the things he used to say, it just, I can really put it together, especially with the information now that I'm coming into, like this is our land. We're the original people here. And
Right.
and that's just what it is. And
Yep.
they can't take that away.
Bottom
Like that's why I
line.
said this birthright, citizenship, all this stuff that's going on. We're not going to be touched by it. And I kept telling people that right when they first started it, said we're not going to be touched. You watch, but everybody else going to be touched, but not us. So let me shout out the chat. Ooh, goodness, y'all was typing boots. All right, Peace Engine number 9, Christopher Creer, my baby Copper Goddess, my other baby Bad Saint. Hey, none of your business. Original Skywalker, Michael Akamak Hers, my brother Open to Knowledge, peace to you. Libra Sun Master Builders, another DMV person. Shout out to my brother. Okay. Tamir Bull, peace to you. Of course, the one and only Big Dog Philly OG, always supporting, always showing love. Gotta love the brother. Shout out to you and the family. I think I did shout out my sister Copper Goddess. Reclassified Black Wild Indian, peace to you. You like that one?
Yeah.
Enoch 0407, the American Indian, peace to you. Of course, big bro Christopher Creer. Hold up, child. GG Sounds, Geechee, peace to you, sis. I'm trying to think because I know y'all was typing boots. Hey, Smoke Signal, peace and love to you. Power to the mother effing people, that's right. Okay, let me see. Okay, boom. How you doing, Wild Savage? Peace to you. Big Chief All-American, peace to you as well. The Enemy's Public with Brother Nasir. Oh, man, and rest in peace to Dwayne Wiggins as well. I wasn't aware of that. We've been losing a lot of greats and a lot of legends. Yeah, that's sad.
Yeah, wow. This last couple weeks, wow, we've been losing
bad these last couple weeks.
They go into the other side, I believe, to help us out.
Okay.
Help us out. We need some.
We need, we need our ancestors to rise through and breathe life into us, baby, because we still got a lot of work to do. The ones that's walking amongst the living. Epic Studies, peace and love to you. Anthony Lowe, peace and love. Yeah, next time I'm gonna start these comments. I tried it. Okay. Okay. Texas, peace to you. How are you today? Thank you for sliding through. A Mary Gal, peace, sister. Let me see who else. I think, oh yes, of course. My sister Seth, peace to you, honey. Please go and follow her page, her YouTube channel called Hidden in the Real. She put out an amazing video in regards to the Mayans and the Aztecs and our connections to that. And I think that it was a beautiful video. And, I hope that you all catch that. I mean, in terms of her breaking down movies and trying to connect them back to who we are without that whitewashed part of things. And, she's doing an amazing job.
The Olmecs, that's who the Mayans were. They don't like to say that because the Olmecs are straight up so-called Negroid. But another thing is the Mexican president just told the people that the original Mexicans were black.
Black. They were shook us.
And it came as a shock.
Yeah, they were shook us. I told them to y'all are nothing but Asians mixed with Spaniards. No shade. No shade to them. But I say it all the time. I'm like, bro, you think y'all are original people in Mexico?
No, you ain't.
Yeah, you really think that? I said, you think that? But they think this. They think this. And I mean, thanks to whitewash history, thanks to thanks to all of that, they think that they're above us as well. And it's really, it's mind-boggling to me. I'm like, the whole world wants to be like these so-called African Americans, but we not the original people. But everybody following our lead, literally want to dress like us, look like us, talk like us, everything.
Thank you.
You know, we've literally created a civilization, a society. Everything that you can think of, you guys are functioning because of our inventions and creations here. I mean, tell me what the hell they're inventing in Africa, or what are you guys inventing in Mexico? I mean, y'all couldn't successfully do an open heart surgery. That was a so-called Black American. Y'all are not doing that. Y'all are not doing these amazing things that our people have done, have laid out this wonderful groundwork for us to eat off, but somehow everyone else is eating. And this is a real issue, in my opinion.
Everybody's eating off of us.
Off of us.
We got to stop that. And we're the only ones who can do it. Okay?
We got to put a stop.
We're the only ones who can stop that. So if y'all waiting for somebody to come out of the sky to do something for you, you're sadly mistaken. It ain't going to happen. All right? You got to do it yourself. So
right.
Stand up.
Yes. Okay, stand up. Fight back, people. That's what got to happen. That's what's got to happen.
No,
Shout out to
we got to outsmart them.
Shout out to Truth Zone. Hey, y'all. Yes, we have to.
Okay.
We have to. And we already are. You know, I just think that we are really scared of, and I hate to say we are scared. We're scared of what could happen. A lot of us are scared to die and lose our lives. It's a lot of different things that, you know, people are scared to lose a particular lifestyle, if you will. I said, I'm a currency child. Like, what?
You're going to lose it anyway. You
when
might as well lose it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I mean, because this is what I think. Okay. United States Incorporated is being liquidated. That's why they're seeing all these changes, assess what's here, and liquidate what they can or keep what they can. Okay? And so this is why so many of our people in government are going to lose their jobs. So you better stand up and have a little $5,000 if it comes. I'm not doing it because I don't know who Elon Musk is. Actually, I don't know who Trump is. Because I understand there were 3 until that accident over what's that, the Potomac?
Yes, ma'am.
You remember when the helicopter
crashed?
Yeah, you know, one of you know who was in there? Did you hear?
I did.
Yeah, one of Trump's stand-ins. There were 3 of them, and that one got killed. So I don't know how many there are left now. You know, so that's why you see one day he's saying this, and the next day he's saying something else. You see, he says he's going after the Panama Canal, but I read yesterday that the Panama Canal has been bought by BlackRock. Now, did he mean that BlackRock was going to buy the Panama Canal, or did he mean that the Republic was going to reclaim the Panama Canal because it was given away for $1? And then they turned around and sold it to the Chinese. Yep. So now I hear, I don't know how true it is, that, the Panama Canal, that BlackRock, y'all know who BlackRock is. There are only 3 mega corporations in the world: BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard. Okay, and they own everything. everything. So BlackRock, all the other mega corporations are under one of those three or more than one of those three. Some of them are owned by both BlackRock and Vanguard, or BlackRock and State Street. Okay. So anyway, I am a little tired now, and
Yes,
glad
ma'am.
to have this coconut water, y'all. Okay, be sure you get the real. Be sure you get the
Yay.
real one. Coconut water. All kind of false stuff now. You got to write the label. Okay. All right.
Yes,
Any
y'all.
one final question.
Okay. And I think this is a perfect one down here. It says, are we going to start organizing a movement? When we say let's do something, what do we have in mind? And
First of all, you create your own tribe. First of all, create your own tribe. Find out where your mama, your great mama, your great grandmama, your people came from, and especially the mother line.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then you go and carefully look at that area and see if you can pull up the census, if you can, and do whatever you can. Many times the old tribes were named after a river. If you can't find anything, because a whole lot of old maps, I told you that I have this map from National Geographic. I've had it for several years, probably at least 10 years, but nevertheless, it's got a lot of information about what the old areas were called, but you can get more detailed maps now. I've had it for a long time, but it sure did help me to find where, the names of the places where my people came from. And then you make sure that you make that public, publicize it somewhere in the the newspaper, on the internet, on one of these platforms. Publicize it. Where are you from? What your name is? What's the name of your tribe? Pull yourself together by your family first. Sometimes we don't have our own family members agreeing with who we are and what we're talking about. So you create your families outside, and then you create confederations. The Iroquois Confederation, that's what the Declaration of Independence was patterned off, and it's a very good resource to look at how you actually conduct yourselves. Okay, and then I have the Great Book of Divine Ordinances. It's a big thing that I have up on my wall, and the Code of Human Behavior. Now, the Iroquois Confederation has a lot of that, but there are other things that you can find, to guide you. But do it. Then come together as a confederation. And then we can then come together as a nation. And those of you who came in late, remember I told you that 1865 or 55 Supreme Court decision that, a million square miles of Turtle Island belonged to the Moors. And I think that's a document that Empress Verdiasi actually found and was able to prove that that land is the Washita, and it's not spelled the same as the Washita. It's UAX, something like that. But anyway, you can find it. And you can also look me up. I have to redo my website, North Scale Institute, or I'll give you my phone number. um, and say specifically with this phone number that you want to get in touch with Mama Collie. It's 404-767-4786. That's my business number. Okay? So you can send a little message and say specifically that you want to get it or pass this message over to Macaulay, because that's still the business number that my granddaughter is actually taking care of now. So just say that you want to pass it over, the message over to Mama Collie, and your phone number or your email address, and I'll get back to you. Okay? Everybody, okay? It's been wonderful. I have really enjoyed. And you thought that I couldn't talk, girl.
I knew you could hang, baby.
Don't get me started talking, honey.
I knew you can hang.
Don't ask me. Yeah, because I've been here a long time and I ain't been no fool. Okay.
And you're not. And I know everyone is grateful for this. And once again, I'm super grateful for it as well. And whoever, they missed it, they're going to have to get back on the replay gang and, catch up and, immerse themselves in this information. And, everyone in the chat, thank Mama Collie, please. Give her love, give her flowers. This is the woman who's almost 80 years old, and still in great sound mind, body, and spirit. And we need that type of energy. And I just love it. Thank you so much, Mama Collie, for joining me for one-on-one Fridays. It really means a lot.
Okay. Well, I really, really enjoyed, and I do look forward to speaking to some of the people I already am speaking to. A couple of them I see on our farm call, but send me the link, because I did not inform any of my people that I was going to be on.
Sure.
And so send me a link as well, okay?
I definitely will. I'm gonna make sure it gets to you.
Yeah, I see it says stream this to your audience as well. I didn't know how to do that, so I left that alone. Yeah,
if you did have your YouTube connected, all you would have to do is just click it and it'll go right over to your people and they'll see it as well.
Oh, okay. See, I didn't know that. Oh,
yeah, I allow people to do it.
StreamYard? Is this true? True. Okay.
Yes, through StreamYard. Yeah, but it'll allow you. It doesn't cost anything.
Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mama Collie.
I really appreciate all your questions. Who is that? Who was that hollered out? Was that you?
I was saying thank you.
Somebody hollered out.
Oh, I don't know, girl. Might be my background tripping. But yes, everyone's saying thank you. Thank you. They're showing you a lot of love, Mama Collie. Yeah.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Yep. Okay. Thank you.
All right, Mama Collie. Let me go ahead and
bye-bye,
round them all out. You take care.
Okay. Coconut water to you all.
Yes, I should have got me another bottle of water. Okay. That's all I've been on, honey.
Peace, everybody.
Peace and love. We'll see you soon.
Okay, great.
All right. Take care.
Oh, okay. Send me the link.
I will. Don't worry. It's already in your phone. Okay, y'all. Woo. Yes, y'all. So, I'm turning my camera off because the girl been on camera the whole time. But I hope you all really enjoyed this build. She definitely had a lot of questions for you guys. A lot of answers for you guys. And I hope that you all can be able to run this back and catch it again. True Zone, we got some stuff working. I'm going to email you. And next week, I do have another guest that's coming on Friday. Someone that we all know, of course. And, every week we're going to continue this thing. And, we're going to keep having these conversations and, coming up with a way to ultimately get back into our proper status of who we are and being proud of it, y'all, and not being scared to go out here and do what needs to be done in terms of justice and in terms of what's rightfully ours, and this land is rightfully ours. So yeah, y'all, I really don't have too much more for y'all. I feel like I look so tired today, Nanya, because honestly, y'all, it's been some stuff going on in my family and things like that. So y'all just keep my family in y'all prayers. You know, like it came out that one of my family members is actually missing right now. So, you know, I've been really trying to, you know, deal with that, and I've been getting a lot of messages through the phone, just a lot of updates and stuff like that. So y'all just keep my family in y'all prayers, and you know, in hopes that they return home and that nothing tragic has happened. And you know, that's all I could really say, y'all. So like my spirit is like kind of up, but it's down too. You know, and I didn't want to, you know, cancel with Mama Collie because we didn't had this trying to get this done for weeks. So I'm glad that we're able to get it done and we're able to have these conversations. I mean, I felt like I wanted to open the panel, but I know Topcast is live. So I know y'all want to get into him because I know everybody been dragging Dr. Umar Johnson for filth. Y'all literally got on YouTube and everybody is cooking Umar. Everybody, okay? Everybody. Like, literally. Like, what he's diabolical in himself, you know what I'm saying? Like, and that's why that shit is coming to light. People don't play, you know what I'm saying? You're not gonna be out here 1-2 stepping, acting like, you know, it's one way when it's really not that way, boo, and you out here, you don't take care of your kids. Oh baby. Oh no. You cannot be out here preaching, excuse me, black liberation for our people, and you're not taking care of your children. Diabolical ass work. Diabolical. You know, they say he was up there on I watched a little small clip of it on Drewski's little platform. And Drewski ain't nothing but an idiot. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. So, you know what I'm saying? Y'all just keep my family in y'all prayers. And, you know, I really do pray that he whatever happened, that it's not the worst that could happen, you know what I mean? But back to Umar wild ass, y'all. I mean, I feel like I wanna, like they said that the daughter literally, y'all, came out. They literally said the daughter came out and said he got, apparently there's another little girl that he got, and she just want to meet the sister. He wouldn't respond or to her messages and things like that. That was this whole debacle. But she done went viral on TikTok, like perking out crying. You know what I'm saying? And like Bap covered it this morning. I think it was really, really sad to hear that little young girl in pain like that. It was just sad to hear that. And it's what it is, man. We got to understand that a part of us being liberated is a part of us taking care of each other and taking care of our families. And it's sad to me that we have a lot of men out here who are okay and comfortable not taking care of their responsibilities. I mean, it's so disheartening. It's disheartening and it's sad. And it just shows what we've come from to where we are now. You know, I think a lot of times women get a lot of the brunt and get a lot of the blame for when the fathers don't participate or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But it takes two to tango, so it should take two to take care of them, period. And you know what I'm saying? I think a lot of people need to stop being reckless sexually. You know, we have to do better with protecting ourselves. Use a condom. It's really that simple. You know, you don't have to bring that in, you know what I'm saying? You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. You know what I'm saying? You just got to do better. And we all got to do better. Be quiet, bad hombre. Anyway, I'm dead serious though. Like, it's really an issue. And I feel like any man that's taking an issue with what I am saying, that means you need to go look inside yourself for real. Any man taking an issue with me telling men that it's not okay to not be in your children's life, I don't give a damn if she's 22, 32, 42. Okay? That is the problem. Black people, or so-called black people rather, we lost all kind of love for each other. We have no empathy, no compassion for each other, and we don't give a fuck what happens to each other. It's sad because no other group of people curry it the way that we do, and we have to stop currying each other like that. You know what I'm saying? We have to stop on both ends. Women got to stop. Men got to stop. It's like we just got to stop. Like the idea of the nuclear family will never be. It will never be, not within the confines of who we are, because we are so caught up in what somebody think, how we look, how much money we making or not making. Oh, I don't like him, so fuck him. All of that stuff. We have to grow. Even me, because I'm not perfect. Because y'all don't see me, okay, having to handle business and in ways that I wish, like I always try to remain a lady. First things first, right? And we're human beings. So I have no issue with owning and being accountable and recognizing that, hey, maybe I could have went about something a different way, or maybe I could have done something different. Like that is okay. Okay. And that's the only way that we are going to grow. We're not perfect people. We're imperfect, but we can grow. And you got to want that for yourself. I think that's what people, I think that's kind of the conversation we was having last night on a channel called She Talks, We Listen. And, you don't have to be a product of what your mother did. You don't got to be a product of what your dad did. If your mom didn't give you hugs and you realize that, then okay, you make sure when you have kids, you give them hugs, you give them kisses, you tell them you love them. That's breaking generational curses. That's what that is. Like, and we can do it, family. We can. Like, I'm sorry, I'm going to always speak from this place because this is what I believe. If you don't like it, you can kick rocks, for real. You don't have to be here, because I'm going to always try to speak life into our people, because that's what we should be doing for each other. And that shit that we don't do is a part of the problem. And we wonder why we're so stagnated all the way from the 60s to now. Nothing has changed. I don't know why she waited until she was grown. If he wasn't around, I don't know. Maybe her mother was trying to protect her from something. Maybe, I don't know what was going on. You know what I'm saying? Like, but maybe we can go over Baps Live, maybe later on. I thought about pulling it up, but I want to get off of here too, because it has been a few hours. But yeah, we just have to work on it, y'all. We have to grow and we have to mature. I don't like I said, I don't see the things that happen in our communities running rampant in other communities, and I think that is what separates us from a lot of other groups. And I hope that we can, like I said, just get back into the fold as the family as we once were. Like my grandmother and her sisters are so close. You know what I mean? And I want to see us all be like that or similar to that. Just knowing that that's your American Indian brother, that's your Aboriginal sister, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like I just think we have to do better. And I think it's just sad. You know what I mean? Everything is either for money or for clout or for some other stuff. And it's like we've lost sight of what this shit is supposed to mean and the bigger picture of us getting this information and coming into it, because we've been blessed to come into it, right? We've been blessed to grow and evolve and to see ourselves outside of the matrix. And we don't want to not take advantage of that, right? We need to take advantage of what we know, and we need to apply it and use it any way that we can. Any way that we can, every way that we can. But at the end of the day, family, it's going to start with us and end with us too. So with that being said, y'all, I felt like I did want to go on, but Topcast Live, I'm ready to end it myself. I really enjoyed today. Thank you all so much for coming in and supporting me, and giving Mama Collie her grace. You know what I'm saying? Bad Sid was in that thing. Not playing, but see, you have to ask these questions. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay to ask tough questions. You know what I'm saying? I don't have a problem with people who want to challenge. We have to do that, because this is, at the end of the day, it's all about understanding, and we need that, and we need to be okay with answering tough questions, being in the hot seat. She didn't mind at all. She didn't mind at all. She was ready for the smoke. Believe that. And she knew that, that she could get some smoke. She knew. So just shout out to everyone. Thank you guys again. This was an amazing build. I'm not sure why she waited until she was grown. I don't, like I said, sis, I mean, maybe I did answer that already, but I don't know why she waited until now. I think a lot of times people think about it though. People suppress pain. People really do suppress their pain. And then they try not to say nothing. You know what I'm saying? And that be the thing. They try not to say nothing. They try to give a person a chance to change and to do better and to make a better decision. And then after a while, you just get tired and you be like, fuck it, I'm kirking the fuck out. For real. People be like that. Think about how many times people take abuse, physically, verbally, whatever. They never say anything. They be like, all right, you know what I'm saying? Trying to keep that little humble. And then when you a child, she only 22. I still consider her a child. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I can understand why things were never said, right? I mean, you got to look at people who were touched or raped or, you know, raped, excuse me, or all of these things, you know what I mean? People go through these different circumstances and a lot of people don't speak about it until they're grown. A lot of people don't realize something was wrong in their childhood until they are grown, family. So, you know, just give baby boo a little bit of grace in that regard. You know what I'm saying? Because I know how it could be. And, you know, it's kind of hard for people to do that. You know what I mean? Especially when they're hurt. And then I think with him having the platform that he has, her coming out the way that she did, it could look like, oh, I'm just trying to get some clout or some attention. But in all actuality, all I heard was hurt and pain. Hurt and pain. That is all I heard. And I could tell that's what it was. So y'all, we gotta be a little bit easy on each other, man. We be so hard on one another. We do. And it's cool. I understand, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like you should know better. But I always tell people you shouldn't know. Stop telling people what they should know or don't know. A lot of us are still ignorant to a lot of shit. Okay. A lot of us are still ignorant to a lot of things, and we have a lot of growing and developing to do still. That's why I always say I'm a work in progress. I'm growing. You all in the chat are growing. Your kids are growing. Everybody is growing, especially like now. I feel like I'm not the same person I was, you know, when I first had my child. You know, I'm a completely different person. And, you know, I vowed to love on my child, family. I vow to love on my child. I don't play that shit. I don't play that because it's not enough love in the world as it is. You know what I'm saying? It's more hate than love. And we're willing to perpetuate that hate quicker than we are to exude some love. So I just kind of wanted to give y'all a little words of my wisdom. I'm still a young lady myself, but I've been there. You know what I'm saying? I understand. And, you know, hey, this is 2025 been a year of exposure. It's the continuation of the exposure. Okay? You people are getting put on blast. It is what it is. Nobody is playing anymore with people. Ain't nobody playing that shit no more. And it's coming out. So I'm not even mad about her expressing her grievances. Enough is enough. It's sad because even if she tried to reach out to him and he didn't reach back out, I bet you he heard her now because the whole world heard it. So, and everybody's been reporting on it all freaking day. I can't wait to go watch some more YouTube tea on it, to be honest with y'all. So, they talking about Umar Johnson. Y'all talk about Umar, right? Yeah, because they were saying some things that he wanted to, he don't, like his African wife can be any age. I wish he'd take his butt there and stay. I wish he'd take his butt there and stay. I'm really tired of Umar and his mess. Nick Cannon told him he wasn't from Africa. That's self-hate. How do this man hate himself? How? You sitting up here dressed in an African dashiki every damn week. We see you looking crazy. That is not your culture, sir. And stop trying to make us in America believe that is our culture. That is not our culture. Yeah, I love that Sav. Straight up. He is. Talking about he's kinsman to Frederick Douglass. Boy, they already said you wasn't his cousin. So stop what you doing. They already said you wasn't his cousin. And then he called himself a Garveyite, right? And people was against Garvey. We went over this, Sav. Shoot. Sis brought the heat. Sav brought that heat. Letting y'all know, listen, black folk, so-called black folks was not here for that back to Africa BS at any capacity, at any point in time. We were never for that. We were never for that. When we've done built this land from the ground up, what reason would we need to do that for? I mean, that's just weird. And that's why a part of me feel like bro is like a straight up agent, because there is no way you gonna keep like you done went and got some citizenship. Why you in America? If you don't go take your ass to Africa, because he know they're gonna be asking him for money every time. He know. He already know. He think he making money. They're gonna be getting money from his ass. Period. Yeah, I mean, it's wild though. You know what I'm saying? Because I never really cared about this whole ideology around what he speaks. Like I said, it's borderline weird to me what he be out here doing. You know what I'm saying? Like preying on these girls that are fans of him and stuff like that. And it's weird work. It's weird work. No school. And this is just what it is. Where's your school, sister? Come on now. Where's your school? And I want my $25 I donated to that school too back in 2015. The hell? Shoot. I'm tired of it, y'all. Donating my hard-earned coins. Shoot, yeah, it was only $25, but still it was a donation. It was a donation. It was a gift. I want my money back. I don't got time for that. I don't understand. So, y'all, no, for real. I know it's petty. I don't care. I don't care. Because he ain't got no school up yet. He need to go ahead and refund some coins. He need to get some cash apps back or something, baby, because this is diabolical work to be in 2025, damn near 10 years later, and no school. And I don't want to hear no excuses, because like somebody was saying, what's the guy? From over there on the Pan-African side, Q Butter. You know, he got the Joan in his apartment, wherever he had it, but he had something for them kids, whether people like him or not. You know what I'm saying? At least he had something going. You have to do something. And for him to not have no type of building, no type of area where he could rent and do some small work, even if his class is online, whatever. Because, you know, today we in the virtual age, people are learning virtually, things like that. You could get your degree completely online now. That's what I'm doing this time around. It's a lot of things that you can do. So it's like, what, you know, how much of this is really for the people, or how much is this for your show, for your ego? You know what I'm saying? And it's just sad. It's just sad. And I heard some other little stuff too. You know, I ain't gonna even get into that. I just thought that shit was preposterous. Like the stuff that I was reading in Bab's chat this morning, just about all the foolishness and nonsense that was going on about a 20K uh PayPal and weird stuff. I would never give that man anything. I would never send it over to him without a contract or anything. Diabolical, okay? And I said what I said. And I wish a bitch would. So, but yeah, y'all, I really do hope y'all enjoyed the show. I think it's weird that he's talking about all this black reunification, black love, and he's not doing his part as a father. That's just sad, man. That's just sad. And he probably only cape for black women just to keep that money coming in, to keep them donations coming in. And whole time don't really feel any ways in regard to what he speaks. He don't really feel that way for real. He's just spewing whatever he's spewing to get paid, like most people do. Because I know the truth is definitely not a factor around here on these parts. You know what I'm saying? People don't care about the truth. People care about how much money they can get. It's sick. People care about money. People care about, you want me to show it, OTK? That's what these people care about. And, you know, it's disgusting to me. Like, you know what I'm saying? People, like, you want money to do something, you know what I'm saying? But you sending money to do something. What is you clout chasing for? Weird as hell. So y'all know who I'm talking to. Y'all know what I'm talking about. And I don't care. It is what it is. It's weird to me. People be doing weird shit. People don't think that that's hypocrisy right there. Hold up.
The issue is that the individuals in these groups do not have Abenaki ancestry. They have great stories.
Who determines
To
that?
say, because I've actually
Who determines that?
I actually did the genealogies of every single family that they place in their own documentation. There's no Abenaki ancestors. That's it. That's the story. You had a flawed process that recognized people who have no Abenaki ancestry, and now you have individuals who are upset because of that, because there's a possibility that that truth will come out. But that's never part of the process. I have all of the documents. You have to show yourself. This is a serious problem that you've engaged in.
Hey, that's what they get. That's what they get. Yeah. It's raining down now, baby. It's raining down now. Y'all got the game bent out here. Y'all ain't gonna keep sitting up here talking about y'all some Native Americans, y'all some American Indians. Stop with the cap. That's why I'm telling you, this birthright citizenship and what Trump doing, it ain't bad. Period. Because shit like this is gonna come out. It ain't nothing but a bunch of YT people up on these reservations claiming American Indian or Native American heritage, your ancestry. Stop your bullshit. Stop lying. Y'all ain't nothing but a bunch of hillbillies. No shade. But then when we say that we indigenous, black people, y'all just don't want to be African. Well, I had a cousin who told me that I should just accept the slave story. I said, accept the slave story? Are you crazy? I'll never accept the slave story, sis. I'll never accept that. Never. How about that? Because I don't play with people. I don't play with people. And I don't have time to play with you, okay? You're not about to tell me one part of my family came off the boat and the other part didn't. Girl, you lost your mind. People be weird. People is weird. They don't know how to explain the things that they talk about. They don't know how to explain what they saying or none of that shit. And people think because some people lost connections to tribes, then that must not be the case. Come on now, all these tribes that went unnamed, all of these tribes that still exist, because we here. Because we here. And my grandmother, she'll tell you, oh, I'm not from Africa, baby. Look, I ain't from no fucking Africa. I don't want to hear that shit again. She ain't play. Africa where, boo? No. So, yes, y'all. It just is what it is. Real weird behavior. Like, look at my skin, bro. Like, look at me, period. Like, nothing, like my phenotype is not of an African person. It's weird though, you know what I'm saying? Because people would try to say, oh, you brown skin and blah, look at your hair. I say, yeah, look at it. Look at it, boo. Look at it. Look at it. And it ain't African hair. It ain't African hair, baby. I remember y'all, and I'm gonna leave y'all on this note. I was in there getting my physical therapy done from a car accident I was in, right? And this is initially when my dreads, they was only like up here, y'all. Ooh, girl, ooh. That beginning phase of them locks was a beast. But I had got them retwisted or something, and I walked in there because most of these Africans that come over and migrate to the United States, a lot of them be owning these fraudulent health, in my opinion, fraudulent healthcare businesses or whatever the case may be, not really helping people, physically get back to health, but that's a whole nother thing. This girl, she literally said, oh my God, I love your hair. She said, I was like, thank you. She said, if I was to get locks, they would never look like that. From an African girl herself. Said her hair would never, ever look like mine with locks. And it's a fact. So, you know what I'm saying? And all of us got it. It's just in us. It's in us. We just got to keep our hair moisturized and things like that. And you'll see what your hair really gives. But you know what I'm saying? Like, she said it out her own mouth. like I tell people, like what got me into this paradigm to begin with was me experiencing like an African telling me that I wasn't an African. And, you know, from there, something just ticked off in my brain. And, you know what I'm saying? I went to go look into my family. I went to go get the research. I got a relative who was an Indian. His son was a Buffalo Soldier, but was also an Indian. So it's like I want to get more into those Buffalo Soldiers and different things like that, because there's a lot of history that got to be explained. You know what I'm saying? And like I think the way that they try to pile our history on top of each other is the problem. I would love that, Focus Mind. Please show your hair. That would be beautiful. We got some of the best hair. We have the best complexion. Even y'all looking at me, I know y'all can see the red. I know y'all can see it. I know y'all can see that Indian red. Come on now. Start playing games. Stop playing games with us, bro. That shit is in our veins through and fucking through. And all y'all see the red tint in y'all skin. Our skin don't look like African skin. I'm not even trying to be funny. Like our skin is different. Our texture, even our darkest black dark skinned brothers, you can see the red tint in their skin. Let's be real. We have to stop. We have to stop. You know what I'm saying? And it is what it is, though. Like it's people like me, you know, everybody else that's out here. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully more people, Saf doing her thing on her channel. And like I said, I'm gonna keep promoting my sis. Y'all make sure y'all go over there. Y'all like, share, subscribe over there. And y'all get into that good content, into those builds we've been doing over the last few weeks. You know what I'm saying? I'm just blessed that, you know, she brought me on her journey and wanted me to be with her. And that really means everything to me in a environment where, you know, people looking at you as competition versus family. So shout out to you, sis, for real. So on that note, I'm going to go ahead and shut this camera off, y'all, because I'm tired. I haven't even heard from the girls from Unscrambled Minds. I don't know if we're going to do something tonight or not. I hope that we do. But I'm going to do see, I feel like I want Straight Smoke. Straight Smoke, if you in the chat, I feel like I want you to change my community support thing to the people that, you know, add some people that should be supported on this community support thing. But I'll still play it off the humble because I actually like OTK little song. And you know what I'm saying? And I think I'm gonna just go ahead and end it right there, y'all. I mean, I had a great time. I love y'all down. Y'all already know what it is, man. I love this information down. Shout out to Mama Collie coming up here doing her big one and hanging for 3 hours like she did. So shout out to her. And you know, yeah.
Say I'm hustling and I'm grinding. I'm making moves with my money on my mind, and I can't fall short. No, always keep it thousand, slow mo. Say I'm hustling and I'm grinding. I'm making moves with my money on my mind, and I can't fall short. No, always keep it thousand, slow mo.
All right, y'all. Y'all already know what time it is. I love y'all down. Y'all take care, stay safe. And you know what I'm saying? We true to this land. And yeah, get up on anybody ass who's trying to think different or try to tell you something different. We know who we are, and we gotta stand 10 toes on that. So on that note, y'all, I'm gone. I'm finally in the stream. Shout out to everybody, all my sisters in the chat. Enox, hey, shout out to you too, big bro. Cause you like shout out to you, Enox. Hold on before I go. Because even when I post stuff on my community tab, you real live hit the link and come through So shout out to you. Thank you so much for all your love and your support. It really means so much to me. Even when I'm on other panels and things, you pull up. So shout out to you. And shout out to everybody, all my sisters, y'all. And I got Saf information, her YouTube, to one of her videos. Y'all, y'all ain't doing shit. Get you some popcorn, sit back, relax, enjoy that video that she put out there. And you know what I'm saying? Y'all make sure that y'all subscribe to my sister, man, and we get that shit popping, man, because the information is what's important. Our roots in this country is what's important, and what they stolen from us is what we're trying to get back, and we got to do that. So, you know what I'm saying? Yes, that last live was so good, man. That information was just pouring. That information was just pouring. And that's what we need. That's what we need. So yeah, shout out to y'all. I love y'all down. And like I said, next Friday, I will have someone else. I'm not going to announce it just yet, but I am going to have someone else. And I'm going to continue to work on just doing more things like this, like I said, because the information is what's key. Maybe I'll do an open panel. Y'all check out that last video too, where I was over there on well, I didn't know I was over there until Libra-son told me, but a guy speak easy pulled up on me, and we honestly had a good conversation. So y'all check that out when y'all get a chance, man. I was schooling them boys on that YT history. That's why I kind of had to pull some stuff out even for Mama Collie, you know what I'm saying? Because YT slavery in America is real. People don't want to, agree to it. I get it, but it is a real thing. And because you even heard her say that she agreed that the Holocaust didn't happen. Michael Hoffman also doesn't believe that the Holocaust happened. So, he that white man ain't got no reason to lie. That's how I see it. That's just how I see it. A white man telling white people that they were slaves, that, I don't know what white man, what he would gain off of telling people that. Or I don't know what you know what I'm saying? Y'all feel me. So anyway, y'all, peace and love. Y'all have a great day.